Good morning.
Morning, Judge.
Morning.
Good
Morning,
morning.
Commissioners.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Tom Boy. What's it? John Boy.
John Boy. Good
All right,
morning.
Chambers County Commissioner Court come to order. It's Tuesday, the 27th day of April, 2021, 9:30 a.m. County Courtroom, Anahuac, Texas. And we're virtual for one more court. Be live next court. We'll also still have the Zoom link. So there'll be two options to watch Commissioner's Court. You can watch it live with a limited, the courtroom's small, so be limited number of folks in the courtroom. But court will be able to be live and also just like we are now. So live and virtual. All right, so if you'll all stand. Commissioner Tice, would you lead us in prayer, please? You're muted though. And I know you're not talking to us, you're talking to God, but still.
All right, Judge, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Let us bow our heads and pray. Gracious Heavenly Father, we come to you and give you all the glory, Father, for this wonderful day you've given us. Father, I ask you to guide this court and let us carry out your will to best serve all of your people and children. Father, we ask that you put a hedge of protection on each and every one that may be going through some difficult times, whether it be COVID or any other measures, Father, that they're dealing with. We ask you to put your healing hands on them. Please guide us through this court and guide us throughout the rest of the day in Jesus Christ's most precious name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Commissioner. Join us in the pledges. Let's get the flags up. Give Austin just a minute. There you go. Pledge allegiance
Just to the flag
of the United States
of
of America and to the republic
for which it
which it
stands,
stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one indivisible. Thank you.
Thank you.
That ought to go just a little bit better next quarter. All right, this is a regular meeting agenda. We have one citizen comment. Matthew Faulkner, Cedar Road, regarding the issue of trailers. At the collection sites, I hear there's a proposal to allow trailers 1 day a week. I'd like to see at least 2 days a week, like to be available at any of the sites. I know there's a feeling of should the county be in the landfill business. Late, as I've said before, that without easy access for residents to dispose of trash, our county runs the risk of having discarded trash in our ditches and back roads like places in Harris County. Thank you, Mr. Faulkner. All right, let's get on to 1.1, discuss, consider department update, public health, emergency management. Mary Beth, I'm gonna turn it over to you. And Kevin, good morning.
Good morning.
Oh, Kevin, let's Kevin.
Y'all hear me okay?
Mhm.
Okay. So I'll start this morning with a case update, and I just got one that came across email. So we have total cases in the county of 4,914. There were 3 new ones that came in from yesterday. Active number of cases is 87. We currently have 5 in the hospital, and we did report 1 death yesterday. I have not, that's been reported to the state, but we did not post that on the website, or it's posted on the website, but it has not been posted to the Facebook page. We have continued to have a positivity rate in about the 19% range. And we still are just having an increased spread. And right now it happens to be in Mid-County. We did have a meeting yesterday, Judge Sylvia, with our leadership team, public health leadership team, and with Youth Project Show, with Kirk, with Parks, and we've sent out some reminders to the leadership at Youth Project Show, with everyone who's coming out to enjoy all the festivities that are happening this week. Just some general reminders about gatherings, and there's hand washing stations and everyone who's going to be seating in the arena, to just remember that COVID is out there and it is still spreading. We want everyone to enjoy it, but to be very safe. So those reminders have gone out to the schools, have been posted, and anyway, have gone out. A vaccine update. So this Thursday will be our last day to administer first doses as a hub in the capacity that we are vaccinating right now. We're well aware that DSHS is likely to come out, or CDC is likely to come out with some updated capacity guidelines, such as adolescents or booster doses. But right now, as a hub, it's our first dose day, and in May we'll be vaccinating with second doses. We've had great response. As a county, we vaccinated probably, Kevin can correct me, but probably over 20,000. I think we'll hit through the end of May, probably well over close to 24,000 people. We have about 400 available appointments for the remainder of this week. We have about 33,000 eligible people who are 16 and older. Currently, we have 12,000 people who have received at least one dose, and a little over 7,000 people who are fully vaccinated. So we have a vaccination rate of about 21% fully in the county. So we could go up a little higher, and we know we're not through yet. Johnson & Johnson has received the go-ahead again. And just because our hub site is going to hit pause right now doesn't mean that we're going to stop giving first doses. We're just not going to do it, open it up to everyone in the state. So with that being said, I'm going to segue into some really exciting news, and that's why Kevin's on here too. Last month, we were given the opportunity to apply for some grant funding that CDC has sent to the state. And we did so. We worked really hard. We reached out to a lot of our county department heads and to some other leadership in the county. And we applied for some vaccine grant funding that was earmarked for vaccines. And we were told that just, tell us what your needs are for vaccine funding for COVID, specifically for COVID-19. And we found out last week we were awarded $4.925 million for vaccine capacity. And this is it's a grant that runs through 2024. And we're really excited about that. So basically what this grant funding is to, you have to be a vaccine provider in order to give COVID-19 vaccine. So we have very few providers in the county, and we could not have given as much vaccine in the county if it weren't for our partnerships with other vaccine providers. Our goal is to increase vaccine capacity, meaning to reach out to other providers in the county and help them become vaccine providers. So some of this funding is to help us increase that vaccine capacity. It's also to reach those people who have what's called a high social vulnerability index. It's to help us to increase our capacity overall. So whether this is through increased staffing, whether it's through remodeling, through warehouse space. I mean, there's just lots of things to help us increase our capacity. Infrastructure, strike teams, a lot of the things we're already doing, such as our mobile teams, our outreach teams, our in-home vaccinations, is actually will help us the county to recoup some of the costs that we're already spending. So for us, this is a win situation because we've already been doing a lot of these things. Now it's a way to help us recoup some of these costs. So I'm really proud of our team. We've been working really hard. And so this was a big deal for us.
Yeah, congratulations. Big deal.
Thank you.
For sure.
Can we build roads and baseball fields and stuff?
No, we can't do that, but we've got refrigerators coming. So
No, good job. Appreciate you. I know y'all been working hard on all of it, but yeah, I'm bringing this in to be great. And it's great for the future.
it is. It's a win for the county in that we are, for our county to be doing the big things that we're doing. It's a great job for the county. So, I know Kevin's on here. If anybody has any specific questions, we're going to keep doing the things that we're doing and in the background and, keep plugging forward.
Kevin, anything you want to add?
No, sir. Just well, I guess I will add a little something. As you've seen over the last probably 4 years, uh, public health has expanded, and our grant capacity has expanded tremendously. From really starting off, I guess before I even got here, it's like $45,000, and then to now well over probably the total amount is probably close to almost 7 or 8 million from all these grants that we've applied for and gotten and been working on over time. So it's been a tremendous thing to have public health known, because we're always in the background doing what we always do. Nobody really knows what we do until now, probably when this pandemic hits. So, but we're always working in the background and trying to make sure that we protect the public health population in the county. And that's
All
what we
right, I
want
got a question
continue
for
to
you.
do.
So if we hadn't created our public health department, where would we be right now?
So if it wasn't created, this is what happened. So I worked at DSHS for 14 years. And so DSHS oversees 7 counties, 7 of the 16 jurisdictions in this region. And Chambers just would have been one of the other added on. It's not really enough staff to cover at the regional office to cover all these counties. So when you implement or you put a public health department within a county itself, and then to oversee that public population, it just helps, because there's boots on the ground in that particular county, and not somebody from the region visiting every now and then and trying to oversee that population. So it just works best when there's a public health department within the county, and then even better when there's a preparedness program to oversee any type of disasters or outbreaks or anything like that.
Good, thank you. All
Hey,
right,
Mary Beth,
Yes, sir.
when it comes time for the booster shot, which I mean, what are they saying? You got to have it done in a year. I mean, are we going to be set back up as a pod to do it like that, or how are we going to run that?
Yeah, so right now there's, we feel like the next indication will probably be for the adolescent, the 12 to 15-year-old population. And right now they're still just not far enough out to know about the booster shot. But at that time, the likelihood of being set up as a pod, there's a great chance for that, just because the amount of people who would be coming through that. But again, our goal is to get more vaccine providers set up through the county, whether it's primary care, pharmacies, ERs, a lot more vaccine providers. That way it'll reduce the burden off of public health. And so if we do set up a pod situation, it may be in a different capacity, or it may look a little different, or it'll be in several different locations. So, again, we're going to try to, increase that capacity. But, we're not sure, looking into the future where or when that'll be. But then the next likely indication will be for the adolescent population, possibly later on this summer. And where and how that'll be, we're not sure at this point. But it probably will be Pfizer vaccine.
Good question, Mary Beth. Had we not got the $4.9 million grant, would we be eating that cost out of our general funds?
So that's another really good question. So and I don't have all the answers to that, but my understanding right now is that a lot of the funding, we're using CARES Act funding for that. And I'm sorry, not CARES Act. I'm not really. You may have to ask someone else that question. A lot of that
reimbursement right now.
Correct.
It's not 100%, so I think it's 75%.
So a lot of that is FEMA reimbursement. But at the end of the day, if we don't have the ability to increase vaccine capacity, whether it's reaching those populations who aren't vaccinated, we're just kind of circling around. The disease burden is still greatest in the county. Our population is still not vaccinated, and the burden still falls on us to get everyone vaccinated, in our county, in the rural county, because we don't have the big hospital systems to do that. So the burden still does fall back on the county to do that. And the funding does have to come from somewhere. And so, yes, that would fall back on us. So in essence, yes.
Wow.
So the 4.9, would that be for all businesses or all places within the county that are distributing it? Do we have to, or will we be sharing that with them and reimbursing them, or is it just for the county administered?
So this is a 4.9 million. We specifically, it's not like they gave us a blank check. Whenever we applied for this grant, we specifically, basically every dollar has already been pretty much identified through whenever we applied for a grant. They gave us specific categories, how to apply, whether it's personnel, what's called cold chain management, just capacity and reaching out to vaccine providers. So every dollar is pretty much already identified to increase capacity to be able to reach out to vaccine providers, those people who need to be vaccinated. So it's not like we're administering this grant for people to apply for. This is basically just to increase our capacity to be able to reach those populations and those providers who need to be vaccinating. And basically, I think 75% of the grant needs to be spent, Kevin can correct me, by a certain period of time. But pretty much every dollar has already been identified and how it's going to be spent.
Okay, let me say this for the record. We're getting pretty deep in the grant, but this is an agenda item under 2118 is to accept the grant. So go ahead. Other questions? All right, Mary Beth, anything else?
No, sir, not unless anybody had any more questions.
No, I
Yeah.
mean, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
No, I mean, I'd just like to say how much I appreciate all our departments working together, because this has been a baptism by fire, so to speak. And I mean, we're learning each week, and I think everybody's pulled together and done a fabulous job, because I mean, and never in my lifetime did I ever think I'd see something like this in this country. And I mean, I think every department has done a fabulous job. And I just want to give you kudos to all of our first responders and everybody that's out there busting their back to help take care of the citizens of Chambers County as well as across Texas. Thank you.
Well, here's what I'm gonna say. We've gotten pretty damn good at it. And I hate to say it. Pandemics and you don't, because you don't want to be good at it, but we have. All right, Kevin, anything else?
No, sir.
All right, we appreciate you guys. I want to vote on 2118 to accept 4.9.
I'll make a motion to accept it, Judge.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Combs, second by, who was it? Gore? Commissioner Gore?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Oh, those in favor? Anybody doesn't want the money? Motion carries. Thank you both. We appreciate all you do. All right. Okay, moving on. 1.2 legislative update. Will you let Dawn in? Who? I see Jared with LJA. There's Don. Okay, so Don's going to update us on the GCPD legislation. Don, I'll turn it over to you. Good morning.
Thank you, Judge. Good morning, and good morning, Commissioners. We are in the midst of the legislation for the creation of the Gulf Coast Protection District that is intended specifically to serve as a non-federal sponsor in support of a series of projects that would yield coastal protection from storm surge events. Currently, that legislation is being heard right now this morning in the House Natural Resources Committee. They are on a break right now, waiting for the House to come back out of session to be able to vote on that this afternoon, hopefully. It has passed unanimously through the Senate already. That occurred on 4/16, so about a week and a half ago. The bill that's in front of the House right now, it was originally mirrored to the bill that was adopted by the Senate. Yesterday, they added a couple of amendments, actually 3 specific amendments. One to allow the district to offer abatements. One to very specifically designate that relocations of utilities and pipelines would be the responsibility of that non-federal sponsor entity, the Gulf Coast District or Gulf Coast Protection District. And a third part of the legislation is that they have to coordinate with local entities, namely river authorities, port authorities, drainage districts, to develop operation and maintenance procedures. And so one of the amendments in the House was to add a coordination with Harris County Flood Control District. Apparently, that district did not fall under one of those other catch-all categories. A couple of weeks ago, we did talk about this legislation allows for taxing up to 5 cents per $100 valuation. That equates to, $150 per $300,000 valuation. Right now, the expectation is that it would be somewhere in the neighborhood of a penny to max 2.5 cents, depending on how fast the projects move and the reimbursement that would be due to the federal government. We did also discuss last week or last session that eminent domain is an absolute prerequisite of an entity that serves as a non-federal sponsor in these sorts of projects. This district is going to be restricted to service on projects that have already been identified under what we commonly refer to as S2G, or the Sabine Pass to Galveston Bay Coastal Protection Study, and a second study referred to as Coastal Texas. The first study for S2G, or Sabine Pass to Galveston, incorporates 3 discrete elements. One is the Orange County levee that is in design for a new levee. The other 2 are improvements to the Jefferson County levee and the Velasco Freeport levee. And then the Coastal Texas project would essentially be dune system, flood wall, and barriers from High Island to San Luis Pass. That would be the one that directly impacted Chambers County, of course. That study provides for a large double dune system down Bolivar Peninsula, and then a large gate structure that includes navigation across the navigation channel, roughly in line with the ferry route. So from Bolivar over to Galveston Island is where that gate structure would be located. That would be the primary element, of course, that would protect Trinity Bay and that east side of Trinity Bay for Chambers County. Like I said, they are required to work with the local entities in developing their operation and maintenance programs for these. They are subservient. The Gulf Coast Protection District is specifically subservient to the local agencies if there's a conflict in the regulations that are created. Let's see. There has been, with the adoption of the Senate bill, there was extra language added to provide for drainage projects and improvements that would be associated with these barrier projects. So if there's any adverse impact to drainage, that can all be funded under the same entity. Happy to answer any questions. That pretty well covers the highlights, but again, anything you guys are concerned about, happy to discuss that with you.
Yeah, Dawn, has there been any talk or any discussion about the Galveston Bay project or anything included in with this?
So this,
excuse me, the Galveston Bay Park project.
The park project, no, sir, not specifically with this project, with this funding mechanism or new entity. It does include, I did mention the protection system that runs from High Island down to San Luis Pass, and then there's a ring levee, what they refer to as a ring levee, that would be included to go around Galveston Island, because they do experience flooding from the backside also. But no, not the parks project.
Good, thank you.
So is there, I mean, has anybody looked at what it's going to do to Chambers County if all this water gets diverted? I mean, that's part of my concern is if it does get in the bay and comes back on Galveston, it doesn't go there, where does it go?
Yes, sir.
There's not a lot of specifics right now. We don't know where it's going to go down Bolivar and those other things. I mean, are they studying that, Don?
We have actually, yes, sir. So the study, like I said, includes a barrier that goes from High Island down to San Luis Pass. It does not, it is on the south side of the Intracoastal. It does not close or cross the Intracoastal on either end. So there is potential for, as the project is designed right now, to have some bypass on the ends of the system. Everything in the study indicates that that's not going to be detrimental, that it'll still be a reduction in flood levels. And the reason is because storm surge are short-lived duration events. And so the time that would take for that surge to travel overland and back to developed areas is too long, and the surge would already start to retreat. In terms of if, say, a barrier is built on one side of a channel, where that storm surge then goes, I know that's a concern that's been voiced all up and down the coast. Storm surges are a little different animal than the floods that we're typically dealing with. In the event of a riverine flood, that water is coming, and it's coming from an elevation, and when it gets here, it's going to seek a path of least resistance, of course. So if it's got a barrier on one side or a wall on one side, it's going to be forced onto the other side. Storm surges work a little bit differently because it's more of a swell in the Gulf of Mexico. So if that swell is going to produce an elevation of 6 feet, say, just pick a number, in a given location, by putting a barrier on one side, it doesn't move that water any higher on the other side. It's still only going to get to 6 feet. So it's not necessarily any extra benefit to the unprotected side, but it is also not detrimental or creating any adverse impact to the other side. And it's the nature of a storm surge, just behaves differently than a riverine flood. Judge, you're muted.
You saw my lips moving?
Yes, sir.
The counties that are left in, it appears my comrades are all pretty much for this project going forward. All the counties feel like it's going to be benefit to us. Is that the sentiment you get, Don?
Yes, sir, it is. And we can talk about the counties and the way the board would be set up too. I kind of skipped over that. But currently I'll just work down the coast. Orange County, Jefferson County, Chambers County, Galveston County, and Harris County. Those are the entities that are currently in the legislation. The way the legislation is written right now, each of those counties get a representative on the board of directors for the entity. In the future, counties could ask to be added and can be added by order without having to revise the legislation, but there's no provision for those annexed counties to receive any kind of representation or a seat at the board. So everybody's kind of looking at that saying, hey, if we want to get in, we might want to be in now if we want to have a say in anything. Beyond that, there's a total of 11 members. There's 5, as we just described, 1 from each county. There's 2 additional from Harris County. one for industry, one for environmental interest, one for small cities, and one for ports. They have provided, they have made provisions in the legislation that no single county can have a majority, which means that Harris County will ultimately have a minimum of 3, a maximum of 5 members at any given time on the board. Harris County, you know, it's a little bit out of balance, but at the end of the day, everything is that Harris County is going to end up carrying probably 95% of the burden for projects all along this 5-county stretch. So in terms of, you know, assisting with protecting and funding what a rural county would be burdened with, Orange County certainly could not afford to do it on their own. And so, yes, sir, those counties are supporting this legislation.
So Harris County could have 5, but if, and I didn't count it, but it looks like the smaller county cities could have at least that many. So there would be a real voice as long as we all banded together.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. There'll be a total of 11. And you know, of those 6 that aren't specific to the county, the governor appoints, and he will appoint 2 additional from Harris, but that leaves 4 others that represent a variety of interest. And yes, sir, those counties or all of that interest that's not Harris County absolutely has a voice.
All right, nothing against Harris County. They're just the big gorilla on this. But
Yes,
like,
sir.
they'll be bearing the brunt of the financing too. So, financial side.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions of Don? Don, is Jared Francis? He's with you. You want to introduce him?
Yes, sir. Jared is one of our younger engineers. Excellent guy. Honestly, I don't know what Jared's presenting today. I apologize. He works in the wet utilities division typically, so I've been buried honestly in this legislation. So
Yeah, well, that's good. That's what we hired you for.
yes, sir.
All right, well, good to meet you, Jared.
You too.
Okay, so no other questions, Don. Thank you very much, Jared. Have a good day.
Actually, I'm here for the Handcomer agenda items.
Oh, you are?
Yes, sir.
Okay, well, let's just leave you on when we get to it. Just I'll put you in the waiting room. Thank
All
you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, gentlemen.
We're going to Road and Bridge. 10 a.m. public hearing regarding the naming of Old Needle Point Road at Chambers County Parkway with Highway 146 East from Highway 146 East to the end of it. And if you want to go ahead and get BJ on, we'll go to his public hearing next. Austin.
We have to call him, remember?
Oh, we're going to call him. Okay. All right. So it's 10:12 a.m. We will recess out of regular session, go into public hearing at this time. Are there any public comments from the court? There were none that came in. All right. No public comments. We'll adjourn at 10:12 a.m. and go back to regular session. 3.2, discuss and consider approving the renaming of Old Needle Point Road to Chambers Parkway from Highway 146 East to the end of it. Commissioner Combs?
Get unmuted here. Yes, sir. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago in court. We're proposing to rename Old Needle Point Road because of the confusion getting Old Needle Point mixed up with Needle Point Road. They actually run, Old Needle Point runs east to west, Needle Point runs north to south. So especially with the expansion coming up of the roadway and the lengthening, taking it over to 99 and then hopefully on over to 3180 in the upcoming years. We proposed to name it Chambers Parkway. That name was chosen because it's actually tying in Chambers Town Center is right at the intersection, real near the intersection of 146 and Old Needle Point Road. And then on the west side of 146, there's a new mixed-use development coming in called Chambers Commons, which this road would be connecting to both of those areas pretty close. So having said that, I'll make a motion that we rename Old Needle Point Road from the intersection of 146 going east to the end of the road to Chambers Parkway.
I'll second, Your Honor.
Motion by Commissioner Combs, second by Commissioner Tice. Hearing none, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Commissioner. All right, we're going to go down to Economic Development and Tourism. 5.3, public hearing at 10 a.m. regarding the Black Line 2021 reinvestment zone. It's now 10:14 a.m. We'll recess and go into the public hearing. And BJ Simon is on the phone. BJ, good morning.
Good morning, Judge, Commissioners. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Morning.
Good. This
Morning,
public
BJ.
hearing is being conducted as per statute on behalf of Black Line Cold Storage and their application for a tax abatement. The county accepted the application for tax abatement in March 2021 and accepted the request to establish a reinvestment zone on April 13th, 2021. By way of reminder, this is a cold storage project, 300,000 square foot facility. It's going to be built on 36 acres as part of the initial phase in Cedar Fort. Approximate job creation in phase one and startup is 35, and anticipated to grow beyond 50 by year 2026.
All right, in public, there were no public comments that came in. Anything from Commissioner's Court on public hearing? All right, hearing none, we will adjourn out of the public hearing at 10:15 a.m., go back into regular session and go to 5.4, discuss and consider order establishing the Black Line 2021 reinvestment zone.
Thank you, Judge. This order is being presented for consideration to effectuate the establishment of the Black Line 2021 reinvestment zone.
So move.
Motion by Commissioner Combs. Second by Commissioner Tice. Did I see your lips move, Mark? Okay. Any questions?
All right.
That's all right. Any questions? Hear none, those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 5.5, discuss and consider notice of public hearing on June 8th, 2021 for Black Line tax abatements. BJ?
Yes, Judge, this is a request to start the 30-day countdown to allow for the court on June 8th to review and approve the Black Line cold storage tax abatement agreement.
Entertain a motion.
So move.
Motion by Commissioner Combs, second by Commissioner Tice. Questions? Those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. 5.6, discuss and consider TOSAF Inc. tax abatement application and incentive recommendation. BJ.
Yes, thank you, Judge and Commissioners. You may recall last court, the court accepted the application from TOSAF Incorporated for a proposed project in Cedar Fort. The project profile that's provided to you reiterates the characteristics of the project. It's going to be a multi-phase project. The first phase of which is 110,000 square feet. Conceptually, by 2026, the project would create between 20 and 60 full-time jobs and ultimately result in an investment of $38 million. Given that the application was accepted and not approved, looking at the particulars of the project, we've been working with this prospect for some time. As has been practiced in the past, we've made some recommendations for consideration. Their request in their application for abatement requested a 10-year tax abatement. However, after reviewing the particulars and the variables associated with this, recommendations for the court's consideration today is that the court approve the application as presented, including the variance request beyond the 5-year tax abatement, and consider a 7-year term of 50% tax abatement over time. There's been a model that's included to show the economic impact of the 50% tax abatement over 7 years. And be glad to answer any questions that you may have.
Questions?
No, Judge, but I would point out, I talked with BJ about this yesterday, and a normal abatement that we would do in a case like this would be a 5-year abatement with 100% the first 2 years and then phasing off. And we actually ran the numbers, and I do like this one better. Actually, this one comes out actually a little bit better in the favor of the county, to the tune of about $16,900. So call it $17,000 over the term of the abatement. But what it really does is by doing 50% flat across 7 years, you're not giving that 100% the first year. So you're immediately first year, you're putting tax base on the ground day one.
Yeah, first 2 years.
So actually, I like this model better. I did have a couple of questions on it, and BJ ran some more numbers, and we looked at it closer. So I think it's something we might look at more in the future too.
I agree, Billy.
Right. Any other questions? Entertain a motion.
I'll move to accept it.
Second, Your Honor.
Motion by Commissioner Combs, second by Commissioner Tice. Hearing no questions. Favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. BJ, I think we got you.
Thank you very much, Judge, Commissioners.
All right, BJ.
Okay.
Have a good day. All right, let's go back. You want to get Jared back in? Well, anybody else in the waiting room?
And Don's still there.
All right, Jared, we're going to go to 5.1 on our agenda, discuss and consider rejecting all bids associated with Chambers County contract number 20-065007-C010 associated with the Hancomer wastewater treatment project.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me. My name is Jared DeFrancis. I work with LJA, the project manager for the Hancomer wastewater treatment plant project. And on April 9th, we received bids for this project, and 2 bids were received. One was MK Constructors. They were the low bidder. MK Constructors bid exceeded the funding provided by the grant. So due to the limited project funding, we're recommending that Chambers County reject all bids, and we modify the bid structure and attempt to achieve a price that fits within the project budget.
What was the project budget, Jared? Remind us.
It was, I don't have the numbers in front of me. I believe it was 2.69 million, and bids came in around, I believe it was 3 million. So
Yeah,
almost
2.9. So
Yeah, it was about 400,000 short.
correct.
Now, I spoke with Samantha, and I think Jared could probably, because I asked her about the timeline, and I think y'all are asking for an extension on that timeline. So they seem to be favorable for that.
Yes,
talking
so
about a timeline with GLO.
with GLO, with the GLO contract.
Gotcha.
So we haven't requested that extension yet. We plan to request it during construction. We don't believe we'll have an issue with it being, with COVID and, hurricanes and all the natural disasters we've been dealing with. Your grant administrator doesn't think that's going to be an issue.
Okay. All right. So you need a motion to reject all bids.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
So moved, Judge.
So what's our, I'm sorry. what's
Hang on a minute.
the solution here?
I need a second. We got a motion by Commissioner Gore, second by Commissioner Tice. Go ahead, Commissioner Hammond.
What's our resolution here? If we reject the bids, I mean, where do we go from here?
The next item is next agenda items to consider rebidding the project.
Okay. So
Talking with Samantha, I think we're going to look at the project and change up a couple of deals on it that really would not change the structure of the project, but it would lower financially enough to get it within bid.
So, yes, sir. Part of the problem was material pricing. Material pricing right now is skyrocketed. So by reducing, or by changing some fixtures and, reducing conduit sizes, we can reduce the cost down, we believe, below budget. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to revise our bid structure, change a few things up, and rebid.
And just so you know, other commissioners, I mean, I spoke with Samantha. We can't award the bid and negotiate to value engineer like we do other stuff because this is a GLO money, and it would just be a nightmare if we tried to do that. So the best option is to rebid.
Sound like the only option.
Yes.
It really is, unfortunately. But we're not thrilled about it. But, to comply with GLO, that's what we have to do.
Okay, other questions? Hear none, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries 5-2. Discuss and consider authorizing rebidding for the Hancomer wastewater treatment plant project associated with Chambers County contract number 20-065-07C010.
Be my
We
motion.
pretty much already discussed it, so,
Yep.
yeah, can, maybe for those that are listening or Tom, I don't know, Tom, are you familiar with this project? Jared, would you kind of give us an overview of just a quick overview of the project?
Sure. This is a Chambers County sponsored, sponsoring Trinity Bay Conservation District for the construction of a 0.3 MGD wastewater treatment facility in Hancomer, Texas. This project will provide for, what it is, it's a steel package wastewater treatment plant. What the project will do is the general contractor will go out, put the foundation on, and a company will come out with a manufactured plant and set it there and put it into service. So this is going to serve the Hancomer community along with connections along Highway 61 south of I-10. This project is funded by GLO. It's a CDBG DR grant project. Those grants came from Hurricane Harvey relief.
Good, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, questions?
So there's nobody matching any funds to that or contributing to that? That's just strictly grant money?
Strictly grant money.
Okay.
All right, entertain a motion.
So move, Judge, that we rebid the project.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Gore, second by Commissioner Hammond. Questions? Not, those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Thank you, Jared.
Thank you, Judge and Commissioners.
Hey, Judge.
Sir.
Hey, Jared, what's our timeline on rebidding this, if I can ask?
Oh, yeah, of course. So we're going to have to revise some plan sheets and the contract documents. We're hoping we can do this in the next 2 to 3 weeks. But, there's a lot of moving parts to this. We've got to get some revisions from the electrical engineer and revisions for the plant. So my hands are kind of tied until I receive those. So it's kind of hard to say for sure, if we'll meet that deadline, but that's my goal.
Understandable. Okay, thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Jared.
We are going to Parks and Recreation, 6.1, discuss, consider resolutions naming the 2021 Chambers County Youth Project Show honorees, Ranch Rodeo, Mike Windsor, auction dedication, Sarah Sarong, livestock show, Patty Laird, steer show, Yale DeVillier, and honorary award, Jared Smith. These are well-deserved recognitions, all of them. So I'll entertain a motion.
So move.
Second.
Thank you. Motion by Commissioner Gore, second by Commissioner Hammond.
Hey, Judge,
Go ahead.
before we vote, I'd like to say a couple of words if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
I would encourage everyone to come out to the Youth Project Show and look at these projects as these kids have worked so hard to not only the animals, but the projects that they have built and put out there to show support for our community. And I mean, I understand that financial times, a lot of people can't spend money on one project, but I would encourage everybody to add on to the animals out there, the other projects, and not only in the cell, but in the barn as well, to help these kids, because this is the money that they use to purchase animals for other shows as well as next year. So, I mean, I would encourage that.
Yeah, even if you bought something out of the barn, it helps those kids, and you can get some pretty good deals. And the auction starts at 5 Saturday, I believe.
Now, are we going to present plaques or anything to these families before the auction, or like we have in the years past, or are we doing a resolution?
Jimmy, I do what I'm told.
I understand. I mean, I've
Yeah,
had a
so
couple. I've had a couple of them ask me.
Normally we do present plaques to the family before. So, if you want to be there a little early.
Okay, because
We
some
can all
of
do
them
it
asked
together.
so they could have their families there. So I'm just checking for them.
Yeah. Yeah, we need to clarify that, but sure, normally right before it starts, we'll call the families up and present them the plaques. So
Thank you, Judge.
want me to do that if they request me to do it.
Hey,
Okay.
just one more thing pertaining to the youth show.
Yes, sir.
Let's not forget about the Young Farmers have a 100 club, and also the 4-H has a 100 club, which all that money goes to help buy animals that doesn't make the auction, and really good deal to help the kids out. So it's a good way to contribute right there.
I totally agree. Totally agree. I mean, these kids are our future and future leaders and future politicians.
You say future politicians? Please, don't brand them with that.
I hope they shoot with higher goals than that, Judge.
Yeah,
All right,
our future leaders, Your Honor.
there you go.
Thank you, Mark.
All right, those in favor?
Uh,
Opposed, motion carries. We're getting Kirk on the line to go to 6.2. Discuss and consider options regarding online auction at the 2021 Chambers County Youth Livestock Show. And Austin can probably visit on it. We've been talking about this for a while. There's whether we have online and live, and I'm not sure about the internet capabilities. You don't want to lag when you're trying to have a live auction. So, Kirk, you on there?
Hold on.
Okay.
Muting his computer, so we don't hear.
Kirk? Okay, will you bring us up to speed on 6.2, excuse me?
Yes, sir. Well, because of COVID, we had to make several options available for these projects. And whether we were going to do our actual show or whether we were going to have to do an online only like we did last year. So in that, I have, signed a contract for the online auction. And of course, we are going to continue on with the live auction with COVID and rules in place. But we're working on the internet right now. Don't know whether we're going to get the speed to where it needs to be. IT is actually out there at Spice Park right now. And we're going to see. We're going to continue with the live auction, of course, but possibly the online auction if we get the internet upload speed to the mark that it needs to be at.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I don't know if there's any action for the court right now. You just bringing us up to speed on it.
Right. No action right now. Just know that, if we do have to end up canceling the online portion of it, we will be charged, I think it's $2,500 is the normal setup fee. If we get to continue with both the live and the online auction, just drop the $2,500 setup fee, and we will pay the online 1% of the sale.
So Judge, that
bottom
would
line-
be an action item to approve that.
So say that again, Commissioner
I
Combs.
said, yes, that would be an action item to approve funding up to 1% of the gross sales out of the parks budget. That's what the agenda item is, right?
Yeah, it's options regarding online auctions. So yeah, we could vote on the options. We've already contracted with them. Is this going to court contract with them again? If not, it probably needs to be an action item, and maybe it's to either pay 2,500 up front or the 1% and leave it up to the Kirk Parks Department to make that decision.
We're already in for 2,500 probably. I mean, when I was talking with Kurt yesterday, I mean, it could be another 2,500, but if our internet doesn't work, I mean, that's going to be the test out there. So I know our IT department's working hard on it though.
I think there's going to be a good show up, Jimmy, and Commissioner Gore and Commissioner Sylvia and the rest of the commission. I think we're going to have a good turnout. But Kurt had no choice but to have this online auction in place. We didn't know where we were going. So having that plan in place, if we can do it in actual time with the live auction, would be a perfect storm of a victory. But without the online option, let's say that doesn't keep up, like Kurt was saying, lagging, I still think we have the chance of really having a fantastic show, Your Honor.
So I asked Kirk this question last week. Do other folks that have shows have online and live, and have they worked? Kirk?
To answer that, yes, there's others that have had both, and it has worked fine, but there has been, the upload and the speed there at the same time.
Yeah, they have those capabilities.
Right.
Correct.
All right. So if someone can't, if we don't work this out, we don't have the online option. If someone wants to buy something, do something, they can contact. I'll be there. I'll be glad to spend some money for you.
I'll be there.
Commissioners would be the same. So contact one of us. We'll figure out how you can help out and purchase what you'd like to in an animal if that's an option that you can't do online, and you'd get recognized for purchasing that animal. All right, Kirk, anything else?
Hey, Judge.
Sir.
No,
If you don't mind, can you get Kirk to go through the procedure? I mean, because a lot of people, sometimes they don't understand that they have to fill out those deals, they have to turn them in, how they pay. They can pay there, can they pay later, or they pay with a credit card, pay with a check?
You hear that, Kirk?
Can you go through the procedure, what we need to do, or what people need to do that may be new to it?
All right. You understand?
on the online portion?
No, period. Just period. The process for somebody that's never been there. You get there, you get fed dinner, and you get your bar number. Where do you go from there? And what time does it start?
It starts at 5.
Okay.
And, we're buyers dinners from 3 to 5. And, you show up, the registration will be out by the arena concession area. Like I said, you get your buyer's number, get your ticket for your dinner, and then come 5 o'clock, we start the show.
So where's the buyer's dinner?
The buyer's dinner is going to be right at the concession stand as well. We're going to
Okay.
set up
Good.
the crawfish place, catering right there, right by the arena.
Okay. And okay, so then you buy something. Yeah. I mean, you check out with a credit card, you can pay by check. What's the process?
Yeah, there will be either check, cash, or credit card received. Some have just ended up paying, after the auction. But we try to collect everything that we can that night, and it's cash, check, or credit card is available.
Okay. And anything we missed?
They are sitting right there in the arena, right by the auctioneer.
Okay. Okay.
It's painless, right? All right. Anything else? All right, you want to
Yes,
get,
sir. Like I said, the main thing I was asking was just for the Parks Department to take care of the online portion of it, whether we cancel or whether we go full stream. And Youth Project Show will take care of the 1% of the live auctioneer.
all right, entertain a motion.
So
I got
moved.
a question first.
I think I have a motion by Commissioner Tice,
Yes, sir.
second by Commissioner Combs.
Yes.
All right, go ahead, Tom. Commissioner Hammond.
I think we need to decide if we're gonna have the online auction or not and make that decision pretty quick so that we can get the message out to where if it's gonna be an on live auction only, and if we're not sure about that working, I think we're better off cutting our losses. So everybody knows that they have to show up live to bid on anything. So, 'cause I think if we try the online and it doesn't work, I think the show's gonna lose a lot of money. So.
That's right. That's
You can
right.
slow it down, you run too late. And I
Yeah,
think that decision will be made today.
okay.
Kirk?
Yes, we are, no matter what, there will be a live auction. This is just an addition because of the uncertainty of COVID. And IT is on it right now. And I agree with the promptness, because if we are going to carry through with the online, these kids have to upload bios, they have to upload pictures, everything to the stock show auction. So that's something that we need to know quick. But IT is out there on it right now.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think if we're on the bubble with that, I think we just need to cut it and go on.
Just go live. I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
I think we all agree with that, Kirk, so, including you, right? All right, I got a motion in a second. Any other questions? Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Kirk.
Thank you, Kirk.
Y'all.
All right, we're going back up to 1.4, discuss and consider action on resolution expressing intent to finance expenditures to be incurred by Texas. Aaron's going to explain it to you.
Morning, y'all. It's a pretty simple resolution. All it says is basically we're gonna reimburse ourselves from when we, any money that we spent in the general fund, the CO will reimburse that. It's just a simple little thing to do, nothing too complicated. If you have any questions, I can answer that. If not, I recommend to approve it.
So if the CO passes, then we would reimburse the general fund of 7.5 million we approved to
Yes, sir.
start
Yes, sir.
the West Side Annex
West Side Complex, yes,
This
sir.
allows us to do that.
conflict. Right. I just want some clarity where everybody understands what we're doing, so.
Yes, sir.
Questions? I entertain a motion.
So
Make
moved,
a
Judge.
motion, Judge.
Motion by Commissioner Tice, second by Commissioner Hammond. No other questions? Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. All right, 1.3 is going to be 11, so we got a few minutes. Maintenance of buildings, you want to let Mike in? And is Jeff on? Jeff Chapman? Yes, no? Oh, never mind, Mike. Dump him out of there. We're gonna do that at noon with PBK, those three. Okay. All right, solid waste, 8.1, discuss and consider allowing trailers up to 18 foot at the box sites 1 day per week. Commissioner Gore?
Yes, sir. I mean, over on the east side, I mean, I think on the west, well, I mean, we have a lot of people that don't have 10-foot trailers. I've just been getting a lot of calls about the trailers at the box sites. And we could allow one day a week where they could go in there with their 18-footers to dump. I think it'd be great. Another option would be, I mean, some people have suggested, I mean, I know they say in 10-foot trailers, a lot of people just don't have a 10-foot trailer. If they could mark off 10 feet on that trailer, put a 2x6 or something across there, and on the regular days, only dump up to that 10 foot. I mean, I think we need to give them options for people that have larger trailers. So, I mean, I would like, go ahead.
Sorry.
I'd like to
So,
see
you
us
know,
go where we could do one day a week, but if not, I mean, even with that, the people that have the bigger trailers have them where they're capable of marking off that 10 foot on that trailer and just put it on that on normal days.
Yeah.
That's just a suggestion.
So, how this came about, the fact that the larger trailers were tying up the ramps too long, they pile them up, and it just takes forever to get them unloaded. Whereas you go out to the landfill, they pull it off for you and you're gone. And I know that it's been an issue. I don't know what the good answer is, but I mean, this may be. So I think we do something. I know we're looking at the ordinances, the landfill ordinances. Commissioner Hammond's working with Eddie on those.
So
I agree wholeheartedly with Commissioner Gore. You know, we need to do something. I mean, I think I hear more about this than I do any other single issue that we have, well, other than traffic on the roads. But no, you know, my take is, and I know we're looking at the ordinance and stuff, but this landfill and our whole collection of box sites and stuff is to take care of our residents. And, you know, and it's to give them a convenient place for household garbage, but it gets abused by contractors. And instead of stopping the contractors, we're punishing our residents by making it difficult on them. I mean, we need, in my opinion, we need to find a way to address the issue. And I think Commissioner Gore's got a good idea. You know, if you got a 14-foot trailer or whatever, mark off 10 foot, put a board across it. If you can afford a board.
Yeah, no lie.
Yeah.
And do something.
Good point, Billy.
You know, but just doing it one day a week. I mean, that's better than nothing, but it's not solving a problem.
I wouldn't want to see it
on Thursday to go do it. I mean, you know, we have our time on the weekends, most of us, you know, to go to the dump. And I understand Eddie's got a problem and he's trying to take care of it. I think we need to work with him, but I think we need to get our heads together and find out how to take care of our residents first.
Well, I mean, when you have someone show up at a box site with a washing machine or a dryer on an 18-foot trailer, and they're turned away and told to go to the landfill, and that's all they have on that trailer, and they have an 18-foot trailer.
Right.
That's not serving the public, our constituents very well.
No, we got to use common sense.
And but
I mean, they're not even tying up the ramps.
No, but I mean, I've had numerous complaints of that, or a box spring, anything just on the trailer, one item, and they're turned away. So I mean, I think there's ways alleviate the issue. So.
But we also need to recognize, Your Honor, and fellow commissioners, that we do have a problem with outside people coming in and abuse. I've seen it with my own eyes. But on the other hand, I certainly agree with pretty much, I feel everybody feels the same way. We've got to better serve our citizens here with this dump deal. And perfect example is a washer and dryer, or a perfect example having a 18-foot trailer and only using 10 foot. It makes a lot of sense. And I think our citizens would greatly appreciate that. We've got to come up with something. Is it Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Judge? Is it Wednesday, Saturday? Or is it every day and they only use 10 of a say 16-foot trailer? That's the big question, Your Honor.
Yeah, I mean, you almost got to do one on the weekend because that's when a lot of people. are
Right.
out. But that's when we're so busy too. I mean,
Right. It's, yeah.
so Tommy, have y'all been working on something
Yes.
to that effect?
So we've been working on the ordinance. We've rewritten some of it. We've got it updated to the current prices that we have. We have the agreements in there for the commercial haulers, what their requirements are and what they have to spend. So to dump. So the problem is the trailer situation, and I'll sympathize with that a little bit, but not a whole lot, because this is virtually a free service for all the citizens in the county. I mean, $10 a year. We're spending a ton of money on the landfill and the box sites and all that. So the problem is with the trailers and the box site, particularly on the west side on Eagle Drive, I can go over there at any given time and there's 7 or 8 trucks backed up waiting to get on the ramp. So, and I think we're probably by far the busiest site in the county.
Yeah, the new box site's going to help.
That'll help that. But the problem is the trucks and moving the boxes. So that's a big bottleneck for
Commissioner,
solid waste. So
I have a question for you. I've had a lot of meetings with Eddie and Debbie and talking about all the things y'all have talked about and working on these ordinances. Did y'all hit on anything of the trailer size, how we can work with our citizens? Did y'all bounce anything around there, or did y'all just stay the course?
we kind of stayed the course. We stayed with a 10-foot trailer requirement. And, you know, it's really more of a burden for the people. And I don't want to go east side against west side, but, you know, it's a lot more burden for the people on the west side. And I've had a little bit of complaining, but, you know, really you get down to the end of the day, the rules are the rules. And so anything east of the river, they're not further than 10 miles away from the landfill. So, and we're putting a big burden on the trucks, having to move the boxes, and we're putting wear and tear on the trucks and additional cost to the county. This thing's already a money pit. So,
Yeah, it's a service. I mean, that's what it is. And I agree with Mr. Faulkner. If you don't have the service, you're going to be picking them up off the county roads anyway, out of the ditches. And so, Tommy, do you think there's an issue with marking off 10 foot off of 16-foot one? I mean, you're still a 10-foot trailer.
that's, I don't know if that's a solution. So, I don't know who's going to do that, but.
Well, it'd be up to the person bringing it in to have that marked off.
Yeah. So,
I mean, are we keeping up okay? This may be a question, Eddie, with since we've gone to smaller trailers, are we able to keep up better with hauling our boxes to the landfill? And is it working better?
it does work better, but those guys they're nonstop.
Oh, I know.
And we just continue to get more and more people in the county. I mean,
and more trash.
more and more trash.
Because
and-
everybody's getting Amazon and
Yeah.
you know, all that ends up in the landfill.
Yeah. So, me personally, I mean, I go to the landfill fairly regular, for some fall into the contractor category, and I'm fine with that. So, but I don't know. I mean, I don't see why people are going to have a trailer full of trash once a week. I mean, I just don't see that. So,
Well, some people do not have pickups. I mean, I know that's rare in Texas, but there are a few that doesn't and have and I've heard those instances since we changed it. It's been a year, hasn't it, or close to a year.
Yeah,
They do not have they have the SUV, they got a trailer,
right.
and it's over 10 foot.
That's the case with Mr. Faulkner that wrote in today, and in the
Okay, well, I
last
knew there
court,
was one.
he's got a 14-foot trailer and an SUV, and he don't have that's how he takes his household garbage there. But I mean, I hear this a lot, and I don't know if there's people in Beach City, on 14, 16-foot trailers or not, but I hear it quite a bit. And, it's the ones you're right, Tommy, they don't haul a load of trash down there every week. But when they do have to haul a load of trash, they have to take it over to Anahuac to dump it. And that's a long haul just for something that won't fit in the back of their SUV or in the back of their truck. It's not like they're rebuilding their house every week. But
Right. So, and I need to double check, but I thought the restriction was trailers on the ramp. So, not necessarily going to the compactor or to the appliance dumpster
Well,
or the brush. also.
I think it's 10 foot period.
that's what I'm being told by the constituents that go out there. That's the reason I'd like to see us mark off a trailer. 10 foot. I think our hands that work the box sites can look at that, and I think we can educate the public enough to put a board across there to mark off 10 foot. And then, even with that, one day a week with up to a 16, 18 foot trailer, we can help some.
So if you're going one day a week and I think we need to come, when are y'all coming back with those ordinances? Next court?
It should be on the next agenda on next court. The reason I didn't put it on this court is because this topic right here, I knew it was coming up on the agenda. So we didn't add the ordinance itself. I'd like to get some solid guidance on which way we're going to go. That way, if we're going to allow trailers in, and I'm going to tell you right now, the solid waste people are 100% against this. So,
well, until these disasters came about, until we had some of this stuff, my whole life here in Chambers County, we've been allowing any trailers we can up on that ramp, and they've kept up. So, even after,
Yeah, but I don't think it's a disaster. I think it's more of the growth in the county.
yeah,
it's a growth in the county.
It's true.
It's times are changing. We got to change with it. So,
All right, so if we allow up to 18 foot trailers, as it says, one day a week, that's got to be the slowest day of the week.
yeah, and I've checked on that, and it's either Wednesday or Thursday.
Okay.
And and then if we can have multiple options on there, the trailer one day a week, and then, like I said, Judge, a lot of people don't have 10-foot trailers. If we can work something where they can mark that trailer off with a 2x6 or something across it and just do 10 foot of the trailer. If we can have those two options on there when they come back with the ordinance, I appreciate that. I'm
okay with that. How do you keep those contractors like Tommy out of there?
They've been, Eddie and them's been cracking down on the companies. I think they're doing a great job on that there. They're weeding those out.
And I know the other part of that is those that are out of county not paying taxes in this county that are going to our box sites. So that's something else that y'all are working to address. Correct, Eddie? Eddie, sorry. Tommy?
So yeah, there's a significant number of those people, and there was already a provision in the ordinance that never was passed. But so if you're caught dumping illegal in Chambers County landfill or box site, you're subject to a $500 fine. So
what we're looking at doing, if you're dumping, you got a sticker and you don't live in the county, you don't pay taxes in the county, you take the license plate and we're gonna send them a fine.
You hit the nail on the head there, Judge.
That's right.
Because we have people, and I know you've addressed this multiple times yourself, Judge, that have second homes or large tracts of property in this county that pay big taxes. I mean, they don't have a homestead on these beach houses and stuff like that are paying full taxes on their property. And we've left it up to the discretion of the commissioners in that precinct to whether they want to issue a permit.
Yeah, and that's been addressed by Commissioner Hammond and Eddie.
Yes.
Correct, Tommy?
Yeah, and we'll go over that in ordinance. So if you're not a resident, because this thing is designed for residents of Chambers County, not landowners, but residents. And that is people that reside within the county limits. So, and the provision for that is that you can get a 30-day temporary permit. So,
And we can address that, and the court can decide. We like that. We want to go with taxpayers versus residents. That's up to us when it comes back.
Yeah, the current ordinance, Tommy's correct. The current ordinance does say residents only.
Yeah.
So, if we just need, whatever we're going to practice, we need to have that, whatever the ordinance says.
It needs to be clear and concise. You're right. All right, let's, do you want to make a motion? You want to wait till next week? It's up to you. We're gonna have Bob Bass on just a minute for election precincts, redistricting. So
Let's wait and put it all back on the same court, Judge.
okay, let's table 8.1. Actually, we're gonna pull it but I think, Commissioner Hammond, I think the consensus of the court is allow a 10-foot mark off 1 day a week, Wednesday or whatever for the larger trailers. Is that
okay, so
pretty much a consensus?
I agree.
Okay, so
Yeah.
So I'm gonna request that those are separate line items.
that's
and
fine.
that The trailer issue be resolved before we vote on the ordinance. So
All right, so you may want to, we want to table this one and bring it back.
I mean,
Okay.
if he wants the trailer issue resolved, Judge, I mean, I'll make a motion that we approve the 8-foot trailer at the box site 1 day a week. I mean, now. And then
Wait, wait. Okay, you're making a motion to allow 1 day a week. You want to specify the day?
Say Thursday.
Shouldn't we confer with Eddie?
Wait. He's in the middle of a motion, Mark.
I'm sorry, Judge.
That's all right. All right, 1 day a week,
Yes, sir.
10-foot mark off on the,
Yes, sir.
all right. Have a second.
I'll second it.
I'll second.
Motion by Commissioner Gore, second by Commissioner Combs. Now, Commissioner Pass.
No, I'm good now, Judge. Just go.
All right, so make sure we're clear on it. So your motion is to allow up to 18-foot trailer, Commissioner Gore, on Thursday?
8-foot trailer 1 day a week on a Thursday. And then with a 10-foot mark off daily.
Up to 18-foot trailer with 10-foot mark off.
Yes, sir.
Your Honor.
Commissioner Combs, that's your second?
Yes, sir.
All right. Yes, sir, Mark.
I was just wanting to make sure Commissioner Hammond conferred with on the best date, whether that's a Wednesday or Thursday or whatever.
Well, what they said was Wednesday or Thursday, so I don't know.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, when I checked, it was either Wednesday or Thursday, and I mean,
Okay.
decide that.
I thought you make it clear, go ahead and make it clear in the motion what day.
Thursday.
Questions? All right, we got a motion second. Any other questions, comments? Those in favor?
All right.
Opposed, motion carries. Now, the other thing
Nay.
you may want to do, you said nay, Tommy?
yes, sir.
Okay, I got one nay. The other thing you may want to do, you bring your ordinances, you may want to, the item before we actually get into ordinances, may want to be the who's going to be allowed in, the taxpayer or the resident. So that it can be clarified before we actually get into it. Either way, or you put it in there and we can talk about it during the ordinance approval.
Maybe that needs to be a separate line item too.
All right, got a motion second. Those in favor?
Oh, we already voted on it.
Oh, we've already voted. Never mind. We won't vote again. Tommy, you still vote no?
Yes, sir.
All right, let's take like 3 minutes and we'll get Bob Bass on the phone and Ms. Hawthorne. And then we'll go into their items. We're still waiting on one. Am I on? We're still waiting on one commissioner, but it's 11:10 a.m. We'll get started in just a moment. But I will brag on Miss Hawthorne and tell her what a good job she did last night at the Republican Women's Meeting. Heather, we appreciate it. Very informative. And if you'll see my sticker there, if you live in Barbers Hill, early voting is until 7 today. And if you're in Barbers Hill School District or City of Mont Bellevue, and then Saturday 7 to 7. And there's also Anahuac ISD elections. I don't have those times, but I thought I could probably fill you in. And is there also when you have elections, these chambers know?
No, sir. The best thing to do is to go on the websites of, you can come to the county website under elections, or you can go to those entities' websites and check locations, times, everything. And on 146 in Cedar Bayou, we're also having a Lee College Board of Regents election as well. So there's 4 elections going on.
And election day is Saturday for all of them, Heather?
Yes, sir. 7 to 7.
7 to 7 election day. All right, so go vote. Okay, Bob, good morning. You're muted, Bob.
Here we go. How are y'all today?
Your hair looks good this morning.
What's left of it?
All right, so we're going.
Sylvia do.
There you go. The no maintenance due. My 10-year-old cut my hair Sunday night. And he even charged me. I had to pay him $15 for it.
Well, he did a good job, Your Honor.
Oh yeah, not a hair out of place. All right, we're going to 1.3 on the agenda. Discuss and consider review of county election precinct for 2021 and update on the 2021 census redistricting in Chambers County. Heather, I think you wanted Bob start and you'd wrap it up with your legislative update.
Yeah, I'm free. Bob costs money.
Yeah. All right, Bob, go fast or we're paying the bill.
Yeah, I don't know how much. I've got a whole PowerPoint I can go through to kind of, those of you who've not been through it, it's your option, or I can kind of answer questions.
I'm fine with you doing a PowerPoint.
All right. Can you let me share my screen?
Austin you can do it.
All right. You all see that screen now?
Yes, sir. We do see that screen.
All right. Let me start it, if I can remember how to do it. Redistricting is something that we do every 10 years. It's a function of the Constitution that requires after each census that the Congress be reapportioned. We just learned yesterday, after the reapportionment numbers were released earlier in the week, that Texas will be gaining 2 additional congressional seats. That's because our population, as a percentage of the total population, justifies us getting 2 additional seats. California lost a seat for the first time. New York lost a seat by 89 people not taking the time to turn in their census form. But no matter how you look at it, no right is more precious in a free country than having a right to vote. All other votes, even the most basic, are illusory if the right to vote is undermined. So that concept has led the Congress to have to be, when it's reapportioned, their numbers have to be balanced as mathematically as close as can be done. So they have no room for deviation. We call that concept one person, one vote, meaning that each person's vote ought to have the same weight as any other vote cast in the jurisdiction. So for a while, it was thought that that only applied to congressional seats, but over time, the Supreme Court has ruled that other jurisdictions are subject to that periodic reapportionment or redistricting. Texas came under that in 1968 with the decision of Avery versus Midland County. Midland is up in one quadrant of the county. It had the city of Midland in one commissioner's precinct. The rest were essentially divided into a 4-piece pie, basically equally in size, essentially focusing on trying to balance road mileage. Mr. Avery sat on the city council in Midland and said that it was unfair that it took over 2,000 votes to elect a commissioner in that precinct and less than 500 votes to elect a commissioner in another part of the county in another commissioner's precinct. That went to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court agreed that redistricting should apply to any political jurisdiction that elects its executive board in single member districts. So each of those districts, which commissioners' precincts are single member, meaning there's one officer elected out of that precinct, should be balanced. But it did say that local governments had some tolerance for a deviation. That deviation is a maximum of 10%. You take your total county population, when that number is known, you divide it by 4, the number of commissioners' precincts, not counting the judge who's elected at large by the whole county. And that gives you an ideal precinct size. You then, with the release of the census population data, determine what the population is in the existing boundaries and determine how much over or below that ideal each precinct might be. Inevitably, you're going to have one that's the largest over the ideal and one that's smallest under the ideal. You divide that number by the ideal to get a percentage of deviation, and then you add the plus and the minus deviations together, disregarding the minus sign or the plus sign, to get a total deviation. If it exceeds 10, you then have to adjust those lines so that you bring that balance back under 10, but closer to 0 if you can. Getting it as close to 0 as you can allows you some room for growth, and maybe in 10 years, if you do it close enough, you might not have to redo it again. So that's the concept. That has been carried over into the Texas Constitution. When you do it, the next hoop you have to jump through, not only do you have to balance that population, but you have to do it in a way that does not violate the Voting Rights Act. The Voting Rights Act prohibits any policy, practice, procedure, method relating to elections that would have either the intent, which is rare, but the effect of making minority voting rights less effective than their numbers would warrant under the population count. So if there are a sufficient number of minorities to elect an officer and they are reasonably compact in their location, you can't draw a line through them to fragment them. You can't, if there's more than enough population, you can't pack all of the minority population into a single precinct. So those rules are set out in the Voting Rights Act, in case law that's interpreted it, and it's enforceable by Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, which says that any individual who's adversely affected by a plan has standing to bring suit under the Act. And under the Act, if they do bring suit and they're successful, you have to redraw the lines in a manner that complies with the Voting Rights Act and pay the other side their attorney's fees. In years past, we had to do what's known as pre-clearance under Section 5 of the Voting Rights Act, but that was vacated by the Supreme Court, and we'll get to that in just a moment. So we no longer have to do pre-clearance, but we should prepare the binders that we used to prepare for pre-clearance as a basis for our defense if we're sued. So the same process, the same rules apply. To further compound the problems and the difficulty, in '93, the Supreme Court in Shaw versus Reno, Janet Reno was the Attorney General. This is a dispute that arose out of the North Carolina congressional districts. North Carolina received a new seat as a result of reapportionment, and because of the significant minority content of the state population, it was deemed to be necessary or prudent to create a minority dominant district. The way they chose to do it, though, drew scrutiny. They went down the interstate highway that cuts kind of north, southwest to northeast through the state. And as they passed the interstate, passed through communities, they would pull out minority population into this proposed congressional seat. So by the end of the effort, it looked like a string of pearls with the interstate as the string and the black population essentially out of each of the towns it went through. It was challenged on the basis that those communities really had nothing in common other than race. They didn't have the same leadership. Because it stretched across the whole state, there was considerable distance issues, no real continuity of interest. So it was struck down, and now the court will look at efforts that essentially look bizarre. If they're all chopped up, look like a bowl of spaghetti, they're subject to challenge if it's shown that the predominant driver for those lines is race. Now, you can't divide the two very much, because the Voting Rights Act says you have to do certain things, and Shaw versus Reno says, but you can't go too far. And so it's a matter of art more than science, really. And I don't know how to, until it's kind of like pornography. When I see it, I might be able to tell you whether you're gone too far or not, but I wouldn't be able to really give you what's known as the benchmark. We would look at what the highest content of your existing plan might be for minority content, and then we will see if we can get back at least to that last pre-cleared plan benchmark without violating Reno v. Shaw or Shaw v. Reno. And so that's essentially what redistricting is the periodic adjustment of political boundaries to achieve balance and avoid violating minority voting rights. The steps that we go through in anticipation of the census or the redistricting is assemble your current maps, which we have, identify where your polling places are, and I will get to that in a little more detail. Locate where those polling places are and where the incumbents reside. Assemble an election history for the last 10 years, identifying any minority candidates, and evaluate those maps for accuracy. That would be something that Heather would need to help us on. I think we've got the maps without much issue. The reason we want to know where the polling places are and the incumbents are is we don't want to move those things out of that precinct or that voting district because both are hard to come by. Incumbents, there's value in continuity of leadership. So we don't want to disenfranchise a serving member of the Commissioners Court or a JP or a constable by moving the line and putting them out of their district. If you do move that line, they serve the rest of their term, but they would have to move into the new district if they wanted to, or there's a provision if they have tenure, you might say, if they've been in office for 10 years, I think, or more, they might be able to run irrespective of their living in the district. But that's for JPs only. Additional steps you might want to consider, certainly you'll want to consider developing criteria for redistricting. We will be sending out proposed orders to define the criteria. Their common sense matters, but this is useful when you get a proposal from some other source than yourself. It's not uncommon to have interest groups propose plans to you. You want to have a set of ground rules. What they propose should be compact and contiguous. It ought to have well-defined boundaries using streets, highways, water bodies, identifiable streams, that sort of thing, or municipal boundaries. To the extent possible, preserve neighborhoods and communities of interest, comply with the Voting Rights Act, and to the extent possible, facilitate governmental functions like ease of election administration, road and bridge budgets, delivery of services, and the like. This is a map of a county showing kind of what maps look like. Y'all are familiar with these. This is something that pretty much what your plan, your maps look like. But we have highlighted, we've highlighted polling places, highways, incumbent residences, election precincts in red, census lines, census block boundaries in black, and then an inset showing the same inside the city there in Hall County. The reason we are showing you this is kind of what some counties are still using what I would call hand-drawn maps, that they've not gone through redistricting either just because they just didn't do it and got away with it, or the last time it was done was maybe they didn't have to redraw in 2010, and the last time it was done was before the advent of computers. But since at least 1990, we have used census blocks as the basis for redistricting. A census block is not something that is necessarily intentionally designed. They program a topo map anywhere there are physical boundaries of some kind that reach closure. They call that a census block. And so that sometimes defies logic, but that's the way the count is done. They code the census returns to a census block, and that tells us where the population is located. Where you have a boundary that's just drawn out, maybe across abstracts or something like that, if there were a highway there, the census blocks would honor that highway. So this is probably, I'm guessing, across either abstract lines or just a line that's sort of drawn in on the map. The next closest census block line is here in red. And so when the census data comes down for precinct 3 or voting box 3, it will be the population within the red block box, not the population that's within the black lines. That causes consternation, but I don't expect chambers to have that issue. But this is some of the issues that we're dealing with in other counties. Once the data is released, we do what's known as an initial analysis. That's a demographic analysis of your county. It tells you how much population you have, what is the racial characteristic or ethnic characteristics of that population, and how much that population has moved or been grown or declined in your county from 2010. We hope once we get the data, we're preparing for it. We hope to be able to turn that data around within 3 weeks, probably. As soon as we have a county, and Chambers will be pretty high up on the list alphabetically, we will release that initial analysis. So you should get your data from us that tells you whether you're under an obligation to redistrict or not fairly quickly after the census data is released. We've already discussed the standard. This is what an initial analysis chart would look like. You can see that we've identified the smallest or the underpopulated precinct 2 and the overpopulated precinct 3. There is an 11.38% total deviation between those two precincts. One is underpopulated by 623 people. The other's overpopulated by 3.54. The deviation between the two remaining is under 5%. So you could just leave those alone and still be tolerable. These are statistical data that's really not that relevant. The total maximum deviation is the substantive. This is the ethnic demographic chart of that same set of data. We look at the ethnic background of each precinct to tell us what each precinct has in terms of total population, what percentage of the county's total population of 34,331 each precinct has within it, and what the raw numbers of each racial characteristic are and the percentage. What we're looking for here is what precincts have the largest minority content. The first place you would look is what precinct has the lowest Anglo population. And so that's precinct 2. And then you look, well, that's 4.6% Black and 72.31% Hispanic. So that precinct needs to be preserved as best we can. There's plenty of population there, but it needs to be preserved as a minority precinct under the benchmark from prior year. Down here is the same data breakout, but by voting age. And again, we look down and we see that this helps illustrate the phenomenon that a similar sized population of Hispanic population, for example, is going to be younger than the corresponding other races. So his voting age population declined from 72 to about 68%. Because minority populations, not so much Black anymore, the Black population knows how to vote, is eager to vote. The Hispanic population still is a little hesitant to vote, and they're younger. So it takes more of to be a viable minority district. So 68% of voting age population probably would translate at best to slightly more than 52%, 53%. So that is pretty, even at 68%, potentially that voting district, once you add that 600 people to it, you may find that percentage substantially reduced. So those are the things that we do. Again, we've talked about keeping minority incumbents in office. If minority representation has been established in the past, that your county has elected minorities, we want to see that we preserve that ability. If it has not, we look at why that might be if the population is viable, and then see if we can draw lines that would make voting representation possible without violating Shaw v. Reno. when we start looking at the data, we ask the computer to highlight census blocks that have heavy minority concentration. This happens to be Hispanic population. And you can see over here on the side, we shade that by gradations. So 50 to 69% would be the light gray, the darker gray, 70 to 90%. And then the 90% or above is solid, pretty solid dark. Interestingly, you will see census blocks down here, for example, we're looking for adding population to precinct 2 to bring it up to closer to balance. So you might say, well, we would look at these blocks down here that would let us draw, say, a line that would just bring that area in, because we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 blocks that show to be 90%. What you'll find though, that could be a census block that only has 8 people in it, and 7 of those are Hispanic. There may not be enough density there to make that worthwhile. Typically, we will move into the cities or the towns where the population tends to be a little denser, you might say more compact. And if we needed to add population, we would do that by switching populations between precinct 2, which is underpopulated, and 3, which is over here, which is overpopulated. Unfortunately, to get to any population over in 3 that we would want to add to 2, or we might have to go through precinct 1. So it's easier where the 2 under and over have a shared boundary. It's harder if they're like this county is sort of catty corner from each other, because then you have to take population out of the overpopulated precinct, spill it into another precinct, overpopulate that precinct, then take population out of that new precinct into the target precinct. So it ripples around the whole county. At the end of the day in Hale County, we have an adopted plan that's just below 5%. And you can see we adjusted virtually all of the boundaries to some extent. These numbers are different. The voting age population, though, we were able to keep at about 60, actually improve it slightly at 69.28%. So whatever your last pre-cleared plan benchmark is for your minority content would be kind of what we need to try to strive to preserve. One thing that comes up in how do we go about doing that, in some counties appoint a citizens committee. I will tell you that the citizens committee were sort of preferred by the Department of Justice in the belief that that helped promote transparency and the involvement of the public, and avoided political shenanigans by the elected officials. Some counties have done committees as a practice. Some like to keep it on the commissioner's court. Either way is fine. There's no prohibition against the court doing it. As long as the results comply with the Voting Rights Act, you should be fine. If you do decide you want to appoint a committee, you probably ought to have each commissioner maybe appoint 2 with the judge have from their precinct, and then the judge would have that would result in a committee of 8. And you probably would want to have a committee no larger than maybe 11, with the judge appointing at large to make up the rest of the committee. And the committee ought to reflect the same racial diversification or diversity that your population has. And of course, they ought to be people who have a sense of, good sense. I've seen committees be dominated by essentially advocates for one side or the other. And I've had some bad experiences with runaway committees in a couple of occasions where a committee recommends something that for a variety of reasons, the commissioners court was not willing to adopt. And then you have a political train wreck. An example of that was a committee in a county that I won't name, wanted to build a super majority minority district. And the only way they could do that was to combine populations that were situated on either side of a river. But the problem was to get from one side of the river to the other, the bridges were several miles apart. And a lot of the population on one side of that river were what I would guess the established minority community. And on the other side was the, I guess you could say the up and coming, newly educated, yuppified minority population that didn't necessarily have the same political leadership, but you couldn't get from one side without going, I think it was 12 to 15 miles to go to the polling place that was on the new side of the river. And the folks on the other side pitched a fit, saying a lot of our folks are elderly and they don't drive anymore. We just don't think we'll get them to vote if the polling place is over there. And the county already was trying to reduce polling places. So anyway, the commissioners court rejected that plan and adopted a plan that kept those two communities divided at the cost of about a 5% decline in the minority representation of that seat, which had elected minorities in the past and continued to do so afterwards. So quite a bit of turmoil over not so much outcome. Once you got your commissioners precincts formed, then Heather and I'll go to work dividing those precincts up into election precincts. We cannot have territory in one election precinct that contains territory that's in more than one commissioner's court, more than one JP precinct, more than one congressional district, more than one senatorial district, one state rep district, or state board of education district. And we used to have to honor municipal wards if they had more than 10,000 people. They've dropped that out. But for practical reasons, you will still want to do that so that you know who's eligible to vote in a city election. You don't want to mix city voters and rural voters. So it's a pretty complicated process, but if you've got a good elections administrator, and y'all have one of the best in the state, and she paid me nothing to say that, that's based on experience. It will get it done, but it's not easy. When I started doing this work, Jimmy, I actually had a full head of hair, but not anymore.
Yeah, I did too. When we
There
first
are
met.
other rules that apply. There's size limits. You can not have more than 5,000 voters, registered voters, in a election precinct, which is interesting in that technically the census data doesn't have registered voter data in it. We can merge poll list with that, stripping out the name and address, well, not the address, the name of the voter. And that's useful when we can do it. We're hoping we can do that across the board this time, but 10 years ago we thought we could, and it turned out that the address matching only gave us about a 75% match, and the labor required to find those errors and move the people that needed to be moved from a former precinct to a new precinct was time consuming. So we just did it by looking at a map. That's very time consuming at the election level, election administration level. We hope to be able to provide a little more assistance this time, but we just won't know until we get there. You should have no fewer than 500 voters, but you can consolidate that. You can go down to virtually any size if you have to honor all of that. You can't have more than one X, Y, Z, and whatever. So sometimes you get sliver districts that have very little population in them, and then you have to come back and consolidate those into a single voting place so you can comply with the election code. Boundaries should use natural boundaries where possible, or artificial boundaries like a municipal boundary or a survey line, but we typically define those by census blocks. The Census Bureau has tried this time to eliminate as much of the use of undefined boundaries. For example, sometimes a census block boundary would be a highline easement or a pipeline easement, which you might be able to physically see on the ground or not. Sometimes dry creeks out in West Texas, we don't pay much attention to creeks because they're so rarely full of water. When they do, they'll flood you, but we don't pay much attention to them. But people wouldn't recognize the boundary because they just drive over it, perhaps, and don't recognize it as a creek. So they've tried to eliminate a lot of those. We ran some samples we've got the 2020 map file. We don't have the demographic file. We've run a few samples just to see what we're getting. And we're still seeing quite a few ill-defined or undefined boundaries in the census blocks, but we will get there when we get there and do the best we can to fix as much of that as we can. Polling place standards should be ADA compliant. They should be reasonably convenient. There's been a major push around the state, and I understand. I used to be a party chairman in my home county. It's hard to find election workers. It's hard to find suitable polling places. So we've reduced the number of polling places by more than 700 polling places, I understand, statewide. That has led to pushback from minority voters saying predominantly we've been doing that in minority areas. I'm not necessarily agreeing that that's the case, but a lot of times the availability of suitable public buildings is the most acute in minority areas. So I can see how that might be an unintended consequence. So if you're going to consolidate to save money, I would recommend, where possible, leaving the traditional polling place in minority districts intact. Public buildings are something that we can use. We typically in the past used schools quite a lot, but with security concerns, COVID and all that, schools are now pretty reluctant to let us use them. We can force them to under the statute, and we don't have to pay them for it other than the cost of maintenance and the utilities. But it's a lot of counties are going to unified polling places. That's fine, but you still have to have election precincts for all of the reasons I've gone through, just to help the election administrator know when you go into a unified polling place, you have to tell them, well, what box are you voting from? Well, if you don't create enough voting boxes to cover the population correctly, it doesn't matter. You still have to tie that ballot style to that voting box where that individual resides within, so they get the correct ballot. So you still have to create election precincts, even if you're using unified polling places. If you do reduce an old or traditional polling place, you need to post notice at that location where the new polling place is. And I recommend we will provide you maps. It would be probably a good idea to have not only a map of the election precinct that you're having the election for, but the other adjacent polling places that might have been affected, so that if people come in and say, well, you're no longer in the old box, you live in a new box over here, and this is the box you need to go to, and their polling place is at this location. So it's trying to get people informed. We will, of course, try to send out, we're required to send out notices of any change to them on their voter registration card. All of that work has to be done before the filing period opens. As I said, pre-clearance is no longer required in Shelby versus Holder. Supreme Court Justice Roberts said there's really no current evidence. The Voting Rights Act was passed in '65. The Congress, as Congress is wont to do, took the easy route and just reauthorized the statute without doing the underlying homework that they did to originally pass it. So the Roberts Court said, well, that data is now 40 some odd years old. We're not necessarily, we don't really have any evidence that racial voting is racial discrimination is still a problem in voting. So, so we've elected a black president. Apparently we don't have racism anymore. So anyway, the court did away with it. Section 5, they say when the Congress goes out and does the homework, establishes that race discrimination still exists, they can reauthorize Section 5, but until they do, it's unconstitutional. I would point out that immediately after Shelby County was decided, states, including Texas, began to do stuff that probably would not have passed pre-clearance, including voter ID, reducing the number of polling places, a lot of that sort of stuff that's going on now, shrinking the mail-in ballot time, all of that we're hotly being debated now, probably would not have passed pre-clearance had it been in place. But I'm just saying that if Congress ever gets around to it, as polarized as it is, it's doubtful. But if they ever get around to it and can actually look at the evidence and not question it being true or false, in today's society, we don't know what true is anymore, but don't get me on that soapbox. Anyway, we don't have to do voting pre-clearance. So once we get a final plan, we will prepare new maps. People have looked at this map and said, wait a minute, I thought you said that stuff had to be contiguous. I see blue in there, and why is that not over here? Well, the population is like Midland in Plainview, my home county, is in Plainview. So we went down the interstate and the bypass on one side of the interstate using the right of way to grab population out of the city of Plainview and connect it to 3. We did the same thing to get population into 2 by coming up the other side of the interstate and taking population out and associating it to 2. Same thing with went in on highway 194 into this area, and 1 was already wrapping around. So there are ways to bring polling places in. We can go down the street and grab a polling place using the right of way to make it contiguous to where you need the polling place. We can do the same thing with residences if we have to. We try to avoid those things because it raises the specter of a Shaw v. Reno challenge. We would present you maps showing the detail of it, however many cities, towns that you want that detail. And then you get your voting precinct map. You get individual precinct maps that try, where we have defined boundaries, to define the boundary of all of the boundaries around the now this is an undefined, that's a municipal boundary line, so it doesn't have a label. We probably should have interlineated a boundary. That might change if the city goes out and annexes, so you might have to do a mid-cycle change of a polling place to accommodate an annexation. This year, again, we hope to merge the poll list. We would strike the names off, just take the voter registration number and the address, or maybe even leave the address off of any release data. But we would merge the address with the geocode each address so it shows up as a dot on the map. And then when we move a boundary, all of the dots that are in the new precinct we take with us. Or essentially, when the line changes, the voters change, and that way we can give the election administrator essentially a poll list revision document. They'll want to double check it, make sure it's right. Likewise, in the past, the best we could do for a description was just to list the census blocks. Well, that doesn't help much. And the time it took to verbally walk around or go around the computer screen and describe it was prohibitive. So, but the software has been improved. We can now ask it to type a narrative of the outer boundary of each jurisdiction. So we should be able to give you a meets and bounds of each precinct, both voting and commissioners. Depending on the time frame, we normally have the census data by now. It is mandatory that it be released by the end of March to the president and to the public by April 1st. Obviously, that's not happened this year. We've been advised we won't get the data till September the 30th. The statutory deadline now in the election code is we're supposed to give you revised election precincts and the voting or the commissioners precincts, whatever, all the districts that are built with those election precincts by October 1st. Well, obviously, if we don't get the data till September 30, we're not going to be able to do the whole state overnight. The legislature or the courts are going to have to impose a new timeline. There is a bill that's pending, 1822 by Huffman, that is passed out of the Senate and is now pending in the redistricting committee of the House. And it will revise the election cycle deadlines, primary, runoff, filing deadlines based on when the legislature draws all of the state lines. Any of you who have been around know that the legislature has been unable to redraw state lines for the last 40 years without it going to federal court. The bill that Huffman has proposed gives the legislature 3 alternative dates by which to have their lines intact, and depending on which one of those they meet, that dictates a alternative primary election, filing period, runoff election. And after 3 tries, I think it goes from November 1st, December 1st, January 1st. If they haven't gotten a plan by as late as February the 14th, it goes to the Secretary of State, who will designate new dates. So it's until, I don't know when you're going to have your primary, and nobody else does either. So it's a train wreck of the first magnitude. Like I say, we do have the map files, and we're doing what work we can. The demographic data is what we need, and we won't have that till at least the end of September. In July and August, you should probably plan to establish your criteria and to, if you're going to have a citizens committee, I wouldn't recommend you appoint them until you know what the racial characteristics of your county are, but you might ought to start assembling a list of names, asking people who you think you would want to serve on the committee if they're willing to do so, and kind of get a roster ready so that when the data is released, you can make a determination of who you want on that committee. Again, we will we've sent out already kind of what we had earlier. We will be sending out again a more final look at what boundaries we think we will be using and ask you to confirm those. And then starting October 1st or as soon after that, as the initial analysis can be prepared, probably through January, we will be working with you to try to develop new plans. I thought they would just generally opt to the May 22 city and school uniform election date. Huffman's bill does not do that. It comes up with new dates. So I don't know. If we went to the next uniform election date, the filing period would fall probably in around February the 12th for the new lines. To have new lines so that people know where they're able to run if they're living within the precinct under the revised plans, we would need to be finished with a plan, have it adopted probably mid-January. Trying to do the work that we normally would have 6 months to do in something like 4 months or 3.5 months is going to be extraordinarily challenging. Maybe not so much at your level, but for my level at least, we may have bitten off more than we can chew, candidly. So that for us to get around logistically, the problem's not so much sitting down face to face with the court and getting a pretty good start on your plan, working with your elections administrator, the members of the court. We can come up with 1, 2, 3 alternatives on just the map of the boundaries for the commissioners court fairly quickly. What's hard is then the logistics of traveling around the state to do that for the next county. We typically like to see 2 or 3 clients a day for at least 3 or 4 days a week from the time we start till we get it done. It's the time of travel and the expense of travel. I don't like Zoom meetings because of limitations, but it may be we're going to need to do more of this work remotely. I can share more screens more readily. I can upload stuff to your internet or to your county website if you want me to do that. I can publish maps on Google Earth maps so that they're more available to the public. I can do more this time than I could do last time, just because the technology has gotten better. But it may be that we're going to need to do a little more ingenuity on how to save time and get it done as quickly as possible, because it's going to be important to get these plans drawn as fast as we can do it this time and still do all the things that have to be done. So it is difficult. It is complicated. I'm sure I've sort of overwhelmed you, but there it is. So what questions do you have that I could answer?
And Bob, we will obviously have everything, as obviously I'm well aware of every bill, everything that's happening there that involves this, and we will have as much of that groundwork completed so that when we get together, that we will not waste time.
Right.
Yeah, and we've learned how to do these type meetings, so that's not an issue.
We're still going to try, certainly on the public hearing that's required before we adopt, we will be physically there for sure.
Okay.
And we will be there as often as we can. Because we're doing Fort Bend County, we're going to have to be that kind of down in your neck of the woods. And so I can probably come by to Chambers more than I could come by to, say, Collingsworth County, which is 5 hours. Even flying, it's 3 hours away. So, I mean, but we're going to do as much as we can face to face. We understand it's pretty sensitive topic for commissioners and JPs and constables. I mean, we're dealing with kind of your constituents, and everybody's got their own idea of how it ought to be done, and we want you to be able to suggest changes. What happens if you move this population there, and what happens if you move that population there? We will do that. We may have to do it remotely, but we want your hands on it as much as possible. I think after you've had that opportunity for a while, you'll see that now I understand why. And I know that you know your community. I'm not suggesting you don't. I'm sad to tell you that the only data the courts will accept is census data. And I expect this data is more flawed. The count, just the raw count, shows the slowest population growth in the country since the 30s. That to me suggests a big undercount. It does not suggest that our population isn't growing, to me. And given all of the hoops that census had to jump through, the Census Bureau, it was pulled from yin and yang. You know, there was an effort made to try to exclude illegal aliens. Well, there's really not a way to do that without manipulating the data. That failed. Then there was a request to delay the census data. That was refused. So then they released it early. There's all kinds of explanations that I could get into that I suspect they screwed their data up, and now they're having to rebuild it. Is why they can't release it until the end of September.
Yeah.
And that sounds incredible, but nothing surprises me anymore. But we're in it's going to be difficult. It's always difficult.
Yes, sir.
It's going to be worse.
I like the picture of Chambers County on the screensaver.
I can pull up
Questions of Bob, any commissioners, Heather, anything? I mean, Bob, you did a good job explaining it, and I like the idea of uploading things to our website to keep the public informed as we go along. So, all right,
Looking forward to working with you, Bob.
I do too. I always enjoy coming down there.
Yeah, this is our third time to work with these guys. When I was on court, 2000, 2010, and now again in 2020.
That's a long time, Judge.
Yeah, I know, I'm old. All right, Bob, we appreciate it. We're gonna.
Sure thing.
And we got another.
Always, if you have questions, you know how to get a hold of me.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Hey, Bob, will you just hang on for a second? Because next agenda item, I just want for Jimmy to read it, and then that way you're still on the line to hear the answer.
Which one are we going to, Heather?
District lines, precinct lines. Judge, that would be,
election precincts,
yes, sir.
1.3.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I've already read it, so go for it. It was kind of lumped together with Bob.
Okay, no worry. So, according to the Texas Election Code in 43031, it is the Commissioner's Court responsibility to review precinct lines. We have for sure a precinct that's out of compliance right now, just with precinct 10. That is 5,677. And actually that number has gone up overnight. And precinct 8 is right behind it. And after talking with Bob, and obviously you've just heard his presentation, that we do probably, I've brought it to your attention, you've reviewed it, but it would be my suggestion that we don't do anything until after redistricting, because we know we're going to have to split or reduce precinct 10. So that will become a precinct 16 and possibly a precinct 17 with precinct 8. And so Bob's recommended as counsel that we just stay the course until we get the redistricting figured out.
There's a bill that would flip that from odd to even numbered years. I assume, I've not read the history, but just they were presuming that by this time we would have some idea. We're not, because of the late release. So there's also no real good reason to make changes if you're just going to have to do it over again in a short period of time. That
And
being
we don't have to do
said,
it now, correct?
I'm sorry.
We don't have to do it now.
If you make the determination that you're going to be readjusting those lines anyway, if they base it on the number of registered voters, I would be shocked if you have voters who show up and vote over 5,000. It's based on the potentiality of voters to try to keep the lines shorter or reasonable. So to me, that's one of those, there's no penalty in the statute. And so it's not something, it says you shall do it, but I think you can opt in a redistricting year not to do it.
Okay, good.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you, Bob.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bob.
Anything else? Ms. Sato?
No, sir.
All right, any questions for any of Heather or Bob?
Thank you.
Appreciate your info as always.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank y'all.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Okay. Get that attorney out of here. We're paying hourly for him. I think we covered the first page. Is Jeff in the waiting room?
Yes.
Okay. What about Mike Leslie? Just Jeff?
Yeah, both.
I'll go ahead and let him in. We'll go to those items. All right, good morning, Mike and Jeff.
Morning, afternoon.
How long is it gonna take? Hang on just a minute. Ben, I've been muted this whole time. And Austin just told me.
Want to see how I keep it on.
I thought we were waiting on Mark Tice to come back.
Well, no, I've been talking. I need to step out for a meeting with the district judges, but I wanted to go to 7.2, at least I'll tell you what was on it. 7.2, discuss and consider 2021 certificates of obligation projects. What's proposed is to postpone EW4 frontage to CCID 1, that road project, and then add Anahuac baseball field project to the COs at $5.8 million. Did you hear me that time?
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
we heard you.
Okay.
I want to clarify, the postponement would be until the McLeod Park property sells and closes. So instead of waiting to do the Anahuac baseball fields out of the McLeod Park funds, we would wait on the Old
EW4.
Needle Point, or not the Old Needle Point, we would wait on the EW4 projects for that.
All right, entertain a motion.
Hang on, Judge.
So move.
So moved, Judge.
Motion by Commissioner Combs, second by Commissioner Tice. Any
That'll work.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. All right, I'm gonna step out for a minute and let Commissioner Gore, we'll go to 7-1. Discuss their approving contract with Brookstone for phase 1, including packages 2, 3, 4, at a value of 7.5 million. Commissioner Gore, you got it for the moment.
Okay, thank you, sir. Who want to go to first? Want to go to Jeff or Mike?
You can go to Mike first.
Okay, Mike, 7.1.
7.1, what we're planning to, we propose to give Brookstone a contract to build the road and bridge, the box site, and do the entire site work and site utilities on the west side complex. And I think we should go ahead and do this. Get started.
Okay, isn't this what we discussed at last court, taking that out of the fund to
The
fund this
general
area?
fund is coming out of the general fund, my understanding.
Okay, that was my understanding as well. Okay. Jeff, you have anything to add to that?
We have been working with Brookstone over the last few months, and they have been very diligent with us, making sure you get a good value for this. They have been working on the contract with Ashley in your office, and they are ready to go. As soon as you guys say the word and Judge can sign that contract, hopefully this week, get them going.
Okay, commissioners, y'all have any questions for Jeff or Mike, the one?
No, thank you, Jeff.
No? Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve his contract with Brookstone for phase 1, including packages 2, 3, and 4. For
I'll
the West Side
second.
Complex.
Okay, motion made by Commissioner Hammond, seconded by Commissioner Tice to award the bid to Brookstone phases, you said 2, 3, and 4? Commissioner?
Phase 1, package 2, 3, and 4.
Okay,
Yeah, yeah.
phase 1. Okay, for a value of $7.5 million to come out of the general fund. Okay.
Yes,
You have any other comments? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Motion carries. Okay, we'll move on to 7.3, discuss and consider approving competitive seal proposed project delivered method for the Fort Anahuac Park project. Mike?
Well, we're planning to go out for seal proposals for the Fort Anahuac Park. At one time, we were only going to do one field because that's all the money we have. Now, this court, we've approved more money. We've basically got the 4 fields that we originally had were already designed. So we're going to have to do a little bit of redesign kind of stuff. We're still going to put it out to bid, but we're going to put the whole thing out for bid, right, Jeff?
Yes, sir. And so all you're approving today is allowing Mike to go out and George Barrera to go out with a competitive seal proposal rather than just a low bid or some other delivery method. You're not really approving a budget. You're not approving a design. You're not approving an architect. All you're doing is saying, Mike, go bring us back competitive seal proposals that allows us to rank contractors not only on their low price, but also on the quality of their resume, the staff that they want to use on the job, and other factors beyond price. That is all you're really doing today.
Okay. Hey, Mike or Jeff, is George available to speak, if you don't mind?
Jimmy, I didn't understand you.
I was wanting to see if George was available to speak, because I've had a lot of people, kind of like at the meeting the other day with Commissioner Collins, people saying we can build them for cheaper. We have a process that we go through, kind of like what Jeff just touched on, the process of where we go out for bids. I mean, being a governmental entity, we have to jump through a lot of hoops to bid these projects, vet these vendors, and come back in and make sure they do. I mean, I think Jeff touched a little bit on that. Mike, would you like to touch a little bit of base on that? Because
Well, we're bidding the project. I mean, if we can bid it, if there's no, you have plans and specifications that you put on the street that everybody can see. Anybody can bid it. So if I don't know how you would get it any cheaper anywhere else. I mean, everybody, it's open up for everybody to bid it.
Okay.
And then when they bid it, they come in and we look at those and we rate the people on, you know, how their past references turn out and plus the price and everything else. So I keep hearing everybody can build it cheaper than we can.
Yeah.
Everywhere I turn around, I mean, even the city, Anahuac ISD didn't do it cheaper than we've done it. So I don't know.
Hey,
go ahead, Commissioner. I'm sorry.
fellow commissioners, Jeff, this is directed for you, and you correct me if I'm out of line here, but it's not like we just have you, Jeff Chapman. We've got Trey Schneider that's within your firm that is probably, I think, one of the best ballpark gurus there is. I mean, it's not like we don't have resources to where if we wanted to value engineer in an area and say they wanted a bigger concession stand. So, Jeff, please elaborate with the court and our citizens that are watching the resources that PBK has, not only Jeff Chapman. Tell them about Trey a little bit if needed.
Sure, absolutely. So these fields are designed by our PBK Sports Division, who does every high school we do. They do the baseball fields on that complex. They've done complexes for Snook, Bryan, Texas, you name it. And so you're 100% right. It's not just me. And so a lot of the price that we get is based on owner decisions, just depending on what they want and what they need. You know, if you want them lit or not, if you can't compare the price of a field that has lights versus the price of a field that doesn't have lights. You can't. And so we are putting together the best team to do that design for you guys. And honestly, the only problem that you guys face in terms of getting less price is that the further east you guys go, you hit that weird area in between Beaumont and Baytown that you don't get the competition that you do if you're building one in the middle of the city of Houston, because people they don't want to go all the way out there to build the job. They don't know the subs. And so, yes, you do have a little bit of an issue once you cross the Trinity River, that it's just kind of a less incorporated part of the country, and the subs out there are a little bit less sophisticated. But at the same rate, sometimes you get better prices than I can get here in town, because you're not dealing with these highfalutin contractors that have all this overhead that we deal with here in town. And so nothing you're going to do today will prevent us from taking the lowest bid. We will get low bids from the lowest, best possible price at that time from as many contractors as Trey and I and Juan and Mark Machaca from our sports division. We will send them emails ourselves on behalf of your county. We will advertise in the Houston Chronicle and the Baytown Sun to make sure that is widely publicized for anyone who wants to come out to Anahuac and build some fields has that opportunity.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. Thank you.
Can I get some clarification as to exactly what the scope is? I know we got 4 ball fields, but what about the restrooms or any stands or anything to go with that?
That's a great question, Commissioner Combs. And so right now, what we're designing is the storage building / restroom building that can have an ice machine in it. It can have the electrical panels for the lights, enough restroom facilities for all of the players and the spectators. We're looking at about 100 seats per field, a set of 50 bleachers on either side out of the foul line. The same netting and dugouts that we did at the West Side complex as well as one larger field and 3 smaller fields. Plus, we're looking at a little food pad area in lieu of the concession stands for food trucks to be able to come up. And we've been talking to Kirk with the Parks Department, who said that's been very successful at some of your other events in Anahuac already. And he sees no reason that that couldn't continue. And that avoids the expense of grease traps and ranges and all of the vent hoods that the fire marshal requires us to put in when we do an actual concession stand properly. And so then the last phase, which is not in this initial budget, would be some parking that would go on the north side in the park itself.
Okay. Basically the same type of field we're building on the west side, we're gonna build over here. I mean, all basically the same. So, I mean, okay.
Judge, Jimmy,
Yes, sir.
Jeff, this is in these bid package. This is Musco Lighting, correct?
So Musco is the premier sports lighting company, but as always, we open it up to several companies, and they all submit bids, and we select the lighting company based on the best value at the time of the bid to work with Kirk and his team to provide you a value for those lights moving forward. But yes, Musco is 100%.
They're in there.
They're 100%. Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you, Jeff.
I will entertain a motion to Jeff and PBK to go out for competitive sealed proposals for the Fort Anahuac Park.
So moved.
The motion made by Commissioner Tice,
Second.
seconded by Commissioner Hammond. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay.
Thank you, gentlemen. Y'all enjoy the rest of your meeting. I will take my leave.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Mike.
Thanks.
Okay, we will move on down to 13.1, discuss and consider increasing the Winnie Anahuac Airport fuel system project in the amount of $31,417.97 with Vasco Services to get the airports up to FAA compliance. Does anybody have any comments on that? I spoke with John Barrera about this here, and these were other deals that we did not see. And I think this was all before Mr. Fingerhut came on with the county. And this is just stuff that we need to get done to make sure we get up to compliance. And I mean, we have the funds available. I think he was saying we just need to approve it.
The funds are already in the airport budget?
I think the funds, and Aaron can, if Aaron's available, he can specify where the funds came from for all the other airport. It was during that time when the fuel transfer incident happened, and I forget where the actual funds came from.
Yeah, that was my only question on it. I just wasn't really sure where they were coming from.
Okay.
Yeah, my understanding from Steve is that he was over budget on airport budget. So this is coming from, this will, I assume would have to come out of general fund.
I think that's where it came from.
But also he did tell me that this is 50% reimbursable from the ramp grant.
Yes, sir.
So this amount right here would basically be 50% of that stated number. So
yes, sir.
we would be reimbursed $15,000 odd.
Yes, sir.
Once we pay this bill. So
yes, sir. That is true. That is correct. I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion.
Motion made by Commissioner Hammond.
I'll second it.
Second by Commissioner Combs. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. We'll move on down to the consent agenda. We'll start with Commissioner Combs. Have anything on the consent agenda you want to pull?
Yeah, actually I do. I want to pull number number 5 and take it into executive session. And also on the payroll change form, page 172, I'm going to pull that, and 173.
What was that last part, Billy?
On item number 19.6, I want to pull
Okay.
pages 172 and 173.
Okay, thank you, Billy.
I had some stuff on that payroll change stuff I wanted to pull as well.
Okay.
Commissioner
Hey,
Hammond.
I'm not through.
I'm sorry, Commissioner.
Yeah, and also on item number, sure I got this right. Yeah, number 21. I've just got a question on that. I want to pull it separate, vote on it separate. But why are we doing work for Trinity Bay Conservation District when they are paying taxes to Trinity Bay Conservation District, and yet we're paying double for that? Or not we are, these residents that are in that district are.
When we purchased the off-road drainage crew equipment, it was part of the understanding that we would, countywide, we would assist Trinity Bay and whoever else needed. This is not getting down and spin the top of Bay Hall. These are cleaning right of ways into those big thoroughfares. So it was an understanding that we work with them now with an interlocal agreement, and the understanding that we'd continue to do that with our drainage equipment as well.
So there's an interlocal already in place?
We have an interlocal with Trinity Bay that they assist us and we assist them. And that was part of the understanding and agreement that when we purchased this equipment, that when we moved to the east side of the county, that they would have a list of projects. And I've worked with their general manager, James Gibson, as well as Corey, to get a list of projects together that has easements and right of ways that we can work in to help clean and help improve drainage.
So is that work pretty well defined as to what we're going to do, or is it just open-ended?
Well, I mean, as far as the projects we have right now, we have designated some projects, and I can get that list of projects out to y'all so we can see. And that way we had a list when we got here so we can complete that before we left the area and move back.
So that's page 299 of the agenda. Is a list of those ditches.
Yes.
Okay, so that is the defined ditches that we're going to
Those
do
are
right
those
now.
are the fine ones that we have right now to show.
Okay.
Yes, sir. And there's easement available through Trinity Bay. So we were going to clean those for our equipment to help improvement.
Okay, and then just another comment on item 1917. And actually, if Mike's around, it's kind of a question for him. And I gotta find that agenda item and look at it. But on that, on their quote, they quoted $14,274, but yet we got a purchase order written for $13,098.
What was that? 14,000 what, Commissioner?
The quote is for $14,274 if I'm reading it right.
Okay. What page was that on?
That's on page 222.
Yeah.
Then the purchase order is on the next page, 223.
I mean,
So
they're actually close, but they're different numbers. You're right, Commissioner.
So I talked to Mike about that this morning. I was talking to him about some other things. That $13,098.11 was actually money left over from the Cove building work that he had done, so that he didn't use. So he wanted to move it to the animal control building because he didn't have enough money in the animal control building project to finish the work.
Okay.
So it was kind of fuzzy a little bit until I talked to him this morning.
Well, I mean, still, that's not enough for what the bid is what we're getting to. If we even prove that, it's not enough to do the job.
Well, he did have some money left, but not enough. He did have some money in animal control building project, but he didn't have enough to cover
Yeah, but
The,
this agenda item is not for a budget transfer. The agenda item's for issuing a purchase order in that amount.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't see a transfer in there.
yeah, I'm just conveying the information. So we may want to get him on the phone and clear that up. So,
And I mean, I thought we were paying for this out of the health services anyway.
Yeah, me too.
the animal control building,
Yes, sir.
I don't know that.
I mean, I'm
Do we
okay
need,
with that. I had a question about the amount.
Yeah. I mean, we can, I don't see how.
Get George on the line.
Transfer in there. There's Mike.
I mean, Mike, I'm sorry.
Let him explain it better.
Hey, Mike.
Nope, we can't hear you. Connect.
He's yeah,
There you go.
connecting the audio.
I'm jumping in real quick.
Yes, sir.
All right, there. Can you hear us, Mike?
Hang on. This is,
I can hear
go.
you now.
can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Here's the deal.
Yes, sir.
The $13,000 came from, that's what I saved at Cove Volunteer Fire Department. I had $18,000 worth of contingency left in the animal control building. Okay?
Right.
If you look at item number 3, I'm gonna take option number 1, which is $7,993. Actually gonna save a little bit on that. And then option number 3, which is 14,000. It came up to about 22,000, a little more than that. I only had $18,000 worth of contingency. So I produced a change order to transfer the 13,000 that I had left over from Cove that I gave back into animal control so I can finish animal control, and then I'll give you the remaining of it back.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, you understand? You understand, Billy?
I think so. So this is all with the same contractor?
It's with the same contractor, yes, correct.
Okay, so you're change ordering his contract here, but you giving him a few other dollars back on the other one.
I'm actually just putting the money into animal control enough to cover everything. And then I'm hoping to give you back, say, $10,000 or so.
Yeah, I mean, I got no problem with change order and doing the job. My question was to do with, the quote saying 14,000, but the agenda item saying 13,098.
Well, you got to understand, I had to put this all in last Wednesday. I was still moking and joking with it to try to get everybody in the right direction so I wouldn't have to wait another 2 or 3 weeks to put it on court. So anyway, that's the way we went about it.
I mean, you said it was also 20-something thousand. So, I mean, what?
I had $18,000 in contingency left in animal control.
Yes.
Okay. So I didn't have enough money to cover the $22,200 to get this work done. So I had to move money into animal control. So I'm moving $13,000 into animal control to be able to cover this change order or this amount.
Okay. But what I'm trying to get to, I mean, and correct me if I'm wrong, I mean, what amount do we need to approve? I mean, is it the 20-something thousand? Is it for the?
You have to approve that I'm putting the $13,098.11
into
as
an
a
animal.
change order raising the contract for the animal control building.
Yep,
Okay,
I get it.
okay.
I got you.
I'll entertain a motion.
Well, are we pulling that one separate? or is that just discussion?
Leave it all in the consent.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, all on consent. That's fine. Mr. Combs,
I'm done.
Commissioner Hammond.
So I had questions on 5 and 6, which Commissioner Combs has already addressed, and we're
Okay.
taking it to the executive session. Also, I had number 20.
Okay.
Approved ditch cleaning bids for 150,000, and Mr. Taylor submitted a requisition for 300,000. So
Okay, I spoke. You want to discuss that one there now, Commissioner?
yeah, we can. I know he wants to raise that, but
Yes, yes.
it does.
He wanted to go ahead and double it to 300,000 so we can go ahead and do the extra footage. Because I mean, we're going on 2 years and we hadn't got that contract out yet. So I mean, he was wanting to just double it to $300,000 worth of linear footage, whatever it came out to per foot.
Okay, so there's a little bit more to that because they want to generate a baseline of what it costs per foot,
Yes,
linear foot to clean ditches. So that's kind of ongoing process there. So just we need to be aware of that that's kind of a moving number.
it most definitely is.
But I think we need some feedback shortly on that. On what we're looking at, and what we're getting for our money.
Okay. Did you want to get Corey in here and discuss that?
He doesn't have that number yet, so because nobody knows what the number is. One guy charged quoted $1.80 a foot, and one guy charged quoted $10 a foot.
I saw that.
So that I'm okay with that. Just want to make everybody aware that number is 300,000 instead of 150.
I'll tell you what.
Also, with number 21, I think we should track those costs, what we're spending on helping Trinity Bay out. So.
Okay.
Because that mulcher head is a very, very, very expensive piece of equipment. So
Yes, sir.
we spent about $240,000 on that mulching head.
Understand. Okay, on number 1920, do we want to go and vote on it separate since we're changing the amount from 150 to 300? You want to go ahead and make a motion? I'll entertain a motion on it if you want to. We'll vote on it separate.
If we need to, I mean, the agenda item itself.
Yeah, because we're
shows
changing.
300,000.
Yeah, we're changing the amount, so it's probably better to go ahead and vote on it separately.
Okay.
I'll entertain a motion on that.
So
Make a motion.
Motion made by Commissioner Hammond, seconded by Commissioner Tice.
correct.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Tommy.
Okay, motion carries.
Commissioner Gore, can we jump back up to item 17 again?
We sure can, yes, sir.
Yeah, I actually, you mentioned a while ago that that's paid out of health services, and it is.
It is,
So,
and that,
wouldn't it
I don't
make
know why
more-
we're transferring the funds, but I mean,
Wouldn't it make more sense to do that out of health services then? And keep those other funds back into the general fund?
Volunteer fire department's health services money anyway, so it's all coming from the same money.
it is.
Okay.
It is. You're correct.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Tice, you have any you want to pull?
My fellow commissioners have already done a great job pulling the one I was interested in, so we can move on.
Okay. I think that's all we have. We can vote on all of them after we come out of executive session, if y'all would like to, and we can adjourn now and recess into executive session if you'd like to. In executive session, Items for executive session may include, but not limited to, application section under Texas Government Code for one, personal section 551.074. Two, consultation with attorneys, section 551.071, and deliberation regarding real estate property, section 55.072, or deliberating regarding security devices or security audio. And we are going to take 20.1, discuss and consider personal issues. 20.2, discuss and consider purchase of real property. 20.3, discuss and consider rescinding Commissioners Court item approved upon the Director of Human Resource request pertaining to payroll, July 17, 2020, -19.28, January 12, 2021, 18.3, January 26, 2021, 18.1, and 18.2, February the 9th, 2021, 19.32. And we are also going to take 19.5, 19.6, 19.5, approved job description. 19.6, approved payroll changes. And is that it? I think.
I apologize to the court, but I have one more question.
Oh, go ahead.
I do apologize. 19.8, Miss Ashley Pritchett to serve on the Chambers County Welfare Board.
Yes, sir.
I don't know her. How do we vet those people for that position?
That I do not know, Commissioner. I mean, we can take that at the executive session and discuss that with our attorney if you'd like.
Okay, yeah, just a question because I don't, like I said, I don't personally know her. That's the first time I've seen her name. But I wonder how that process works. So if we can take that.
Let's call it Commissioner Hammond.
Okay.
Executive.
We'll take 19.8, accept letter of intent from Ashley Pritchett to serve on the Chambers County Child Welfare Board to executive session as well. Okay, I think that was it. Yes, that is it. Okay, we will recess out of a regular session of Commissioner Court and go into executive session at 12:47 p.m.
Can we have 2 minutes, Your Honor?
I need a couple minutes, but
we can take 5 minutes, so we will meet back in executive session at 12:53.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. We are adjourned out of regular session.
Judge, you're muted.
I know. Austin said I was good to go, so I started talking, and he said, "Wait, you got to unmute." All right, Chambers County Court come to order after executive session. It's 2:07 p.m. No action items on those. No action items taken to executive session. You ready to vote on the consent agenda?
Yes, sir. I would like to make a motion. We approve this consent agenda with a revision to the road administrator to leave that pay blank pay range off of the payroll form.
Just leave a blank pay range.
Yes, sir.
All right.
A second.
Motion by Commissioner Combs, second by Commissioner Hammond. Any other questions, comments? Hearing none, those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. I think we covered it all. Anybody see anything I missed?
One quick comment before we get off. Since
Go ahead,
the
Commissioner.
since the CO was on the agenda, I just want to remind everybody that we have a town hall meeting Wednesday, tomorrow night, 7 PM at McLeod Park. So, and we will town hall meeting for the CO proposal.
Commissioner Hammond, Commissioner Combs, please explain to the citizens why I cannot participate.
Well, I can tell you that because it'd be a quorum there.
That's right.
That'd be
A lot of
Commissioner Combs,
citizens don't
Commissioner
know
Hammond.
that.
Okay. So if they're listening, they should know now. And three members off the court constitutes a quorum, so.
That's correct.
All right. Oh, yeah. Okay. So before we adjourn, Ms. Hawthorne's here for a quick legislative update back to 1.2. We'll give you my chair, ma'am.
Thank you. Gentlemen, I just have really one item that I really want to discuss. It's the American Rescue Plan. It was passed in Congress earlier this year, 1.9 trillion COVID relief package, sends billions in federal funds to states, counties, city governments to address revenue shortfall. Chambers County will receive approximately 8.5 million in direct payments, potentially beginning in the middle of May. It is important that the county does its pre-award registration through the website. And TAC, I have a contact for us. Basically, TAC is saying that the county needs to decide who is going to be the point of contact and get registered, and you have to have your government ID number, et cetera. So I really wanted to bring that to your attention. The sooner this is taken care of, the better. And then other things that are happening at the Capitol right now are constitutional carry and HB 749 has not been out of committee. There was an amendment put on by the author, and the amendment was struck down on a point of order. So, and then SB 10 by Betancourt, which is similar to HB 749. It would prevent local government and law enforcement officials from testifying on any property tax related legislation. It has made it out of the Senate, and it's currently in the State Affairs Committee, and no hearing is currently scheduled for the bill. So we are down to 35 days left in the session. So things are moving very quickly at the Capitol right now.
Hey, Heather.
Yes.
The 8.5 million, I probably missed it. What's the avenue for that money? What's it to be used for?
It is, it's a direct payment from the Treasury, and it's to address the revenue shortfalls and infrastructure needs related to the pandemic.
And we're on that, Commissioner. Patrick made us aware of it first. So we're working on it, and he's working with us on it. So.
Judge, isn't that the same thing that was on our agenda a quarter or two ago? And it pretty much going to be limited to, I guess, infrastructure being communication.
Yeah, I think Sam put it on a couple of courts ago. So
Yeah,
it's the same thing.
I thought so. I didn't know if there's something different or whatever. I thought so though.
No, that's the same.
I think it was water. Yeah, it was water, sewer, and broadband, I believe.
Yeah.
That sounds right.
Okay. Well, the TAC is really encouraging everybody to obviously take care of this because that payment could potentially be here in about 15 days.
Oh, yeah.
Wow. Oh, thank you, Heather.
You bet. Okay. Y'all have a great afternoon.
All right. Thank you, ma'am. Okay. Anything else? Hearing none. For that, we are adjourned, and it is 2:12 p.m. Godspeed.
Thank you, Judge.
Next time.